It's time, folks. We are over 3 years into this Grin Grappler journey, which is terrifying. And we've had some major occasions. We had our WrestleMania 3 with Grin Grappler Alexa Bliss. We had our WrestleMania. What would you say, Alex? What would be the Shane? I want to give you a chance. I don't want to say something mean.
X7.
Well, I shouldn't give you that chance. We had that, whatever that was. We've had some ups, and to be quite frank, very few downs. We had a great time with the show, but tonight it isn't about Alex, it isn't about myself. It is instead about our fearless leader, Robert O'Neill, and one of his all-time favorites. Maybe at this point, with other surrounding events, his all-time favorite. One of the gold standard, the standard of excellence, I believe they call him nowadays. Shelton Benjamin, one half of the current AEW World Tag Team Champions. And more than any of those things, an excuse to get Daniel Garcia onto a Grin Grappler format. It is a major occasion. Here at the Grin, we are very excited. We are very fired up. Bobby, it feels right to go to you first, mate. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, man. It's great to be back. I haven't been around for a while, been preparing for this. And what a show. We're finally doing a good wrestler on here.
You said that like you've been in a training camp. Tremendous.
Yeah. No, I'm fired up. I got the shirt, gold standard.
Oh, that looks very faded, Bob, I have to say. Very faded.
It is, yeah. It's been washed and dried quite a few times.
It doesn't look very gold anymore, quite frankly.
No, it's really not, but, I had to bust it out.
Yeah. That phrase is banned around here. Okay. Very nice. Contrarian Alex, just pleading with us in the group chat. Please, God, give me Garcia. Alex, how are you this evening?
Joe, like the reason we were late is I had to wait for the wire transfer to go through with my double booking rate for this one. So, no, I'm good. I'm excited to be here. I've watched way too much pro wrestling in the last 2 weeks. So what the fuck's another 6 matches of a great wrestler? So, always excited to be here, and an interesting addition that we're making to the hallowed halls of the Grin Grappler this evening. And I think it'll lend itself to plenty of conversation, because not just our featured player here, but we encounter some interesting characters along the way that I think will add to the group's discussion in general. But yeah, glad to be here.
Indeed. The Oracle of Wrestling, your dinner has just arrived. Mm-hmm. What a time to be alive, mate. How are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm here enjoying this calzone. I was also punished because I was forced to watch a Marufuji match. So that happened. I'm good. I'm excited to talk about a fellow Carolina boy and native in Shelton Benjamin, who's from not too far up from the road from my hometown in Orangeburg, South Carolina, which is only about an hour away from Charleston. So.
For a second there, I thought Oracle was going to say a fellow Hurt Syndicate member. I was going to go, well, I don't know about that. But, Tyler asked in the chat, just for a moment, if we could be serious for a moment, this has to be the case, right? That was December 24.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
What would be second, I wonder? Was it maybe an Alexa match? I don't know. I should check my spreadsheet.
Yeah, I was going to look this up earlier because I think it's our first 2024 match. I think we had one from 2023. I just don't remember what it is.
That sounds right.
Definitely, yeah. Alexa had a couple of 2022s. Alex, what was you going to say, mate?
No. I was just in agreement with Bob. I feel like I remember seeing 2023 at a recent lineup, but yeah, I mean, most definitely this is now the most recent match that we've covered.
Yeah, this was last Christmas, right? So,
I watched that show. When I pulled it up, I was like, wait, I watched this because I remembered that Ospreay did the boom gimmick with the Costco guys at the beginning of the show.
Wow, that makes it even funnier. That's right. We did Mickey James and Jordan Grace. That would have been a 2023. That's probably what you're thinking about, Bob, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Beautiful.
Our thanks to the Peanut Gallery out there for throwing that up.
It's great, dude. They know more about the show than I do. It's always the case. This is going to be fun, though. Shelton Benjamin actually quietly, because this is one of the worst platforms in all of wrestling, has been a bit of a topic of debate at times through our rich history. at some points in my life, I felt the need to push back on Bob being a big Shelton Benjamin guy. I don't know why I did that. I guess I was just bored or something. I don't know. I've come around to the idea in recent times, so I see this as my apology to you, Bob. I hope you're aware of that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You've been very upfront about that you're wrong, and he's been great since he came into AEW, and I'll take it whenever I can get it, man.
You've been very upfront about that you were wrong is great. It's awesome. You're right, though. I mean, I was wrong. It is somewhat complicated. We'll get into those complications tonight, but this is still a celebration of Shelton Benjamin's career. And with that in mind, before we get started on some, kind of starting points in terms of fandom and such, if you like this show every month, there's a pretty good chance that unless something unforeseen happens, you're going to like the show, right? Jim, that's a fair bet. Bob, if someone's out there and they fit the description I just mentioned, they like the show every month, do you have any kind of advice for them as to how they can signal that to the masses?
Yeah, you go ahead and smash that like button. First time, odd number. We're all good here. We're going to be here for probably 3 hours, so plenty of chances to do it. It's your first time, so you're good.
Awesome. All right, Bob, I'm going to stick with you. Start the show as we always do. Our fandom for the grappler in question, Shelton Benjamin. This feels like the main event of this series, to be honest with you, Bob. Go for it. Your fandom when it comes to Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah, I mean, it's really from when he debuted. It was, I think, the last SmackDown of 2002. Came up with Charlie Haas to join up with Kurt Angle as Team Angle, and then Team Lesnar, and then the World's Greatest Tag Team, and then Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team. We'll get into all that. But, yeah, just kind of right away, it was like he had this intensity and physicality about him and just kind of has a look. And, obviously, when they came out as Team Angle and the matching sweatsuits, I enjoyed that quite a bit, too. It's a good look. And, yeah, I mean, they hit the ground running right away. I mean, by No Way Out, I think we're in the main event alongside Angle against Brock and Chris Benoit, and Edge was supposed to be there, but he got hurt. And then, like we saw, they're tag champions by July. And, the tag team itself doesn't stay together that long, but that's really where it started. And then, we'll get into it, but like throughout the rest of the mid-2000s, he just kind of makes the most of the opportunities that he's given. And, yeah, just from there, it stuck.
Alex, did Bob just take a main event away from Hulk Hogan's illustrious resume? I think he did, didn't he?
Look, I wasn't going to jump in there, but Bob, there were 3 matches promoted over that.
No, that's right. There was No Way Out.
Yeah, that is classic Bob. We're 8 minutes into this show. You've already given him the honors of the gate and the box off. Like, what? The pay-per-view buyers? I thought you were an Observer subscriber, bro. Come on.
I mean, I try to forget about that match.
Yeah.
To be fair, that fucking match rules. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So I was actually, I didn't realize, Bob, you were day one-ish.
Yeah. I sure was.
Holy shit. So did you ever waver at any point? Did you ever waver at any point in the 2010s?
I mean, not really. Like, once he left, I wasn't really watching anymore. So it was like, and then when I started watching wrestling again, he was working in Japan, and I'm like, I'm not going to seek that out, unfortunately. I'm just not going to do that. And then he came back, and it was really cool. And yeah, since then, it's been great.
The greatness of Bob O'Neill is you can ask him, have you ever wavered? And he says, no, absolutely not. I simply didn't see him wrestle for 6 years.
Yep.
The magic of Bob O'Neill on full display there. Okay, I'm intrigued by this because Alex, I don't know if we've re-spoken about Shelton Benjamin at any point. I think you missed all of the great debates in the past grins.
Yeah.
Where do you stand in terms of Shelton Benjamin fandom?
So as has been documented on this show before, when I was in high school, I watched Raw, I didn't watch SmackDown. And so I remember, honest to God, that No Way Out match we mentioned might have been the first time I saw Shelton wrestle, because I was aware that Kurt Angle had a new stable that was built around him. But it was that, and then really early, quick in 2003, they did that. The 3-way match at Mania was good, and then they had that match with Los Guerreros at Backlash. So they were immediate pay-per-view standouts. And then the match will start on, that's the same year, and they already had a new look and a new, kind of. They were. It was just interesting to see a real tag team at a point in time where you could still argue the WWF doesn't really care about tag teams, but at that point in time, it was even more rare to see like a standout tag match. So I remember Shelton's sticking out in that way. And then, of course, because it's the WWF, when a tag team really starts gelling, they have to break them up. But I do remember the concentrated effort to make Shelton like a standout on Raw. And then for like what I remember, like 05 to kind of when he left. When did he leave? 2010?
09, I believe, or early 2010. Yeah,
I remember. The idea, like
match, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. There was that idea that like he was the work rate guy in the WWF that they were holding down, and so that's kind of what I remember. And then it got real spotty for me. Like, and we'll talk about it when we get there. The ROH outings had varying degrees of good, and then some of his Japan stuff. I can't remember which Wrestle Kingdom he was on that I watched, and I was just like, man, what happened? But he showed back up in the WWE, which was cool because he's also one of those dudes who kind of like RVD just seemingly doesn't age. He just looks exactly the same. Mm-hmm. And then now he's still doing his thing, and I may not necessarily agree with the match presentation he's given these days, but he's still fucking kicking it. So he's a wrestler that has been omnipresent for the past 20 years of my life. And I don't want to say it taken for granted, but like it's he's just someone that I see. I'm like, oh, Shelton Benjamin. And so today was kind of interesting. I watched all the matches today, and I think Joe and you and I are in a similar train of thought that will kind of flesh out throughout this about the kind of ups and downs that Shelton's gone through. But man, I think the conclusion we're probably going to reach is when he's on, he's fucking on, man.
He is. And if we're going ahead of ourselves, I do think, and this is the way we generally approach the Grappler, these are intended to be pretty favorable presentations for a wrestler, pretty favorable representations of a wrestler.
Yeah.
And I think, in fairness, we were about as favorable as you could be with Act 2, to be honest. Like, I think we probably chose his best matches from either spot. Not that either is perfect, because I think both have their chip, but like, that's part of my kind of the fact I'm slightly torn. I think we all agree Shelton Benjamin's really, really cool, right? And he does stuff that looks awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And visually super impressive. I began to push back on Bob for some reason. But I began to push back on the Shelton thing when he was like, every underrated wrestler list he would be the top of. And this is not Shelton Benjamin's fault, but it's the same thing I have with Chad Gable, where it's like, at what point are they, by definition, not underrated if they win this award every year? You know, that isn't Shelton's problem. I'm aware of that, but it's just silly, right? And so I think I had that issue of, and I think people do this a lot online. So I'm not, I did it. I get it. Sometimes you overcorrect. I think I overcorrected on Shelton Benjamin. Because I do think it's a little bit overstated sometimes, the potential that he could have been like this major top star. I'm not sure about that, to be completely honest. I think he could have had a much more interesting career if WWE wasn't, WWE for bulk of the time he was working there. But the reason I do have some, kind of sense of pushback, genuinely, beyond all the beers, he was really, really inconsistent outside of WWE. Like, his effort outside of WWE was quite disappointing. And I think as a result of that, it isn't just me that was kind of like, underwhelmed by that. But in the same vein, as my fandom has evolved some and changed, and I'm less like star rating centric at this point in my life, there is something to be said for just putting a Shelton match on and just looking at the stuff he does and popping, right? The way he's worked. We talked about with, we talked about Scott Hall or Booker T. Some guys, while they may not necessarily have a tons of classic matches, you like watching them work. I think Shelton fits that category, right? His stuff is really fun and engaging to watch. So much so, Oracle and I were talking when we were the first two in the StreamYard, and we were like, this was not one of those match lineups that had a bunch of short matches, but I found it to be a very breezy watch, which I do think speaks to who Shelton has been as a wrestler. So my opinion has changed through the years. To be honest, it's probably more favorable now than it's ever been. Oracle, I'm intrigued. You have that connection quite close to old Shelton. What about your fandom? I'm intrigued. Go for it.
So I have sort of a rough memory of his debut. As I've mentioned about 128 times on this platform. Chattanooga did not have UPN. We had WB, so we had to SmackDown would like air on like like another channel late on Saturday nights, and sometimes in the times would change. So I rarely caught SmackDown, particularly from the years of like the fall of 02 to like around WrestleMania 20. I did not catch much SmackDown at all. So Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas, World's Greatest Tag Team, I didn't get to see those guys unless I was on pay-per-view. And the first time I remember being like amazed by them was the ladder match against Eddie and Tajiri at Judgment Day 03, which we ordered. And in fact, I've only seen the World's Greatest Tag Team match with Ray and Kidman one other time, probably about 15 years ago. So it's only the second time I've seen it. At first, I thought I hadn't seen it, but I remembered I had seen it because I had done like a insane Rey Mysterio watch many years back.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
When Shelton moved over to Raw after Mania 20, that's when I became a huge fan of his. And of course, JR would put over his, amateur accolades, talk about how he was from Orangeburg, which popped me and my family. And I'm to find out, my dad had seen him at a couple of wrestling meets, like because my dad taught high school down in South Carolina, and had seen him wrestle one or two times down in some big wrestling meets back in the early to mid 90s. And didn't really think anything of it. I mean, he was obviously a great amateur wrestler then, and then Dad was like, "Wait a minute, like I recognize him or whatever." So that was cool. And then in late 04, I actually got to meet Shelton. Got his autograph, whatever, shook his hand at a house show in Chattanooga. We told him we were from Charleston. Smiled about it and was probably like, "All right, let me talk to the fucking 100 other annoying people." But
did he say hello, the Oracle of Wrestling? Did he say that?
No, he did not, sadly. But no, he was friendly and whatnot. We were like, I was a huge Shelton fan. I'll never forget when he beat Triple H on the Raw a few weeks after Mania 20. I have a soft spot for all those Evolution tags. He was in many of those. Mm-hmm. His mid-card push to the IC title, I was pretty invested in. Watching Mania 21 with my family live at home and him doing the stunts was just incredible. The Shawn Michaels match and calling my cousin, who was up the hill in the same complex as us, freaking out over the finish to that match with the super kick. Just stuff like that, like his athleticism. Just like he was just like a cool babyface to root for. I remember appreciating his in-ring work a little, like even more, probably around the time of the Gold Standard stuff. But I also felt he had kind of been overexposed in a way as a mid-card guy, and of course he won the most underrated award like 5 or 6 years in a row, or whatever. I had the impression that he was, and I didn't watch any of it, but I had the impression he was like bad for like a long time. But when he came back and teamed with Gable in the late 2010s, I thought he looked pretty good. Not great, but solid. And then I think he got to be pretty good again, like solidly pretty good, when they formed the Hurt Business, when he and Cedric were a team, and he still looks pretty good now. The thing I'll say about Shelton is, I think he's a much better wrestler as a heel. I think he is overrated as a face in the ring. I don't think he has. I think he's a spectacular athlete, but I think his strengths are as a heel. Because I don't think he has the. He doesn't have a lot of charisma when he sells, and I think his strengths are in his offensive displays, which I think, for example, which we get from the Marufuji match and from the tag with Haas and whatnot, and that's just because not to sum up too early here, but I do want to point out that if there are any flaws, I don't think he's as good of a babyface as I would like him to be. But I will say this: he is certainly a guy who could have easily had a world title run in the early 2010s if he stuck around. fucking Jack
Yeah.
Swagger had the world title, and it wouldn't have looked that weird with Shelton. It would have looked more. It would have felt. It would have made more sense with Shelton.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I actually want to revisit his gold standard stuff because I have a feeling I actually love that stuff. I went through and watched a lot of it because the Taker match we're going to talk about is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Indeed. Did I get the ladder match with Christian was his last match? Did I hear that right?
No, he did.
His last match was, I think it was he went to the European tour in 2010 and then got let go in the beginning of June 2010. But he was at Mania 26 and there's 10 guys in the Money to Make ladder match at Mania 26.
That's what you. Yeah, that's what.
It was. No, his last program was with Christian, Alex. That was his last actual highlighted program with anybody.
Mhm.
I remember they had the main thing I remember is they had a ladder match at some show that was starting to get really good, but then someone got cut.
Yeah, Christian got busted open. Yeah,
and they completely stopped the match and it killed all their momentum.
Mm-hmm. That match is gnarly, dude. It's really rough around the edges. Yeah, it's a really aggressive deal. So because Shelton has been around, I mean, Shelton started training at OVW. I think he signed with the WWF in January 2000.
Yep.
So
he was one of the OVW4. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a result of that, guys of his longevity always make these lineups kind of challenging, right? We tried to kind of cover all the different chapters of his career. Now, the big flaw with our lineup, and it's something we were aware of at the time, we just felt was the right call. There isn't any of that babyface Shelton that we were just talking about, the one that beats Triple H and wins the IC title, right? We missed that. And the reason we did that was, as Bobby said, the version of him in ring is not that dissimilar to what we see in the Huss team. Whereas the gold standard, even though I don't think it's remembered as fondly as that version of Shelton, it is a clear shift in approach, isn't it? And it kind of sets the stage for what's ahead of him. So that was our thinking here. First act WWE, second act out of WWE, and then this third act is him as kind of a veteran, both in and out of WWE. So that's what we landed or settled on here for Shelton Benjamin. And with that in mind, I think we should get rolling, fellas. As I mentioned, January 2000, which is wild. He soon was reunited because him and Brock Lesnar already had a dynamic from wasn't he his sparring partner in the shoot wrestling
Minnesota
game? Yeah. They're put together as the Minnesota Wrecking Crew or Stretching Crew even. I don't know. Stretching Crew, of course, yeah. And the thing that's crazy is Cornette's talked about he did that because Brock didn't have any personality and Shelton had the personality at the time. And it's kind of weird how you look back on that, it feels odd, right? But that was the way it was at the time. And as the lads mentioned, as Bobby said earlier, the last TV of 2002 or thereabouts, December 2002, called up alongside Huss to be with Kurt Angle. They win the belts in February. They work with Chavo and Eddie an awful lot. Chavo has told some great stories about the kind of growing pains that came with that, the teething issues of these two kids that are legitimate shooters, but are also brand new, wrestling two dudes that, are pretty deep in their career at that point. And I think it took them a while, but then they eventually settled in.
Quick, Joe?
Yes,
sorry,
please
sorry.
do.
Yeah. Your remark made me immediately think of the Creed brothers. And I'm going to bury modern wrestling really quickly, and then we'll ignore it.
Don't worry, we're circling back to it.
Obvious, Shelton and Charlie were guided by a lot better workers and smarter people, and the Creed brothers have not been.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done.
Yes, the actual thing there is that the idea of getting called up and being able to work with the Guerreros 4 nights a week is crazy now, right?
Right.
Well, also, I think
they got physical, those matches. They got really physical. Go for it, Alex.
Exactly. Now you just have people like Johnny Gargano just crying backstage instead of punching someone in the face in the ring. That's the Creed brothers. I'm sorry if I'm picking on Johnny out of line. Was he one of the people they hurt and he got mad about it?
I don't think so. No, I think you just attacked Johnny Gargano.
I'm sorry.
I think it was Priest.
Who? Damian Priest?
Damian Priest, yeah.
Well, he seems like someone who could kick one of them in the face and tell him to slow down. I don't know. Yeah. Eddie and Chavo, the real heaters, just popping you one, saying, slow it down, brother. Yeah.
It got pretty aggressive, pretty contentious, and eventually they kind of
Sorry,
because
Johnny.
also, yeah, sorry, Johnny, because also the Guerreros would on a house show they're calling it in the ring, dude, which is like that's why I think it got so contentious out there. You know, the lads out there trying to figure out what they're doing.
Brother, Charlie Haas in our second act of this is so amped up in that match, it started to freak me out.
He's awesome, man. That's like I hope that's the quiet conclusion of this. How good Charlie Haas was.
Mhm.
My goodness. But yeah, I think they learned a lot in that time period and kind of found their way as workers, and then they do the Eddie and Tajiri stuff, right, which we mentioned a moment ago with the ladder match, and then that brings us to Act 1 here, the first match. July 27th, 2003, there would be Vengeance, which is a memorable show.
Very.
A memorable show. In terms of single brand pay-per-views, probably one of the, in the top tier, right? The world's greatest tag team, Shelton Benjamin, opposite the babyface tandem of Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman. I hadn't seen this match in years. Had a blast revisiting it. Glad we did this. And in fear of, not focusing on our topic here tonight, which we'll get back to, Rey Mysterio is unbelievable in this match.
Yeah.
To an almost comical degree. But let's, talk about the match itself, the whole thing. Bobby, I'll start with you, mate. What did you make of this Vengeance tag to kick us off?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I hadn't seen it in quite some time either, but you see Shelton Benjamin kind of right away. Just they cut off the ring, they bring the physicality, and they kind of Kidman and Mysterio have to work like underdog babyfaces. Like was kind of the point, and that was simple and it ruled, and they kept the action going. I think the last like 8 minutes, it's just action, 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 and yeah, just great stuff, great starting place, and honestly, probably the best match that those two had as a tag team in WWE.
Yeah, I think this is their signature match as a team, which is somewhat bittersweet in that as awesome as it is, it does feel like you could see the pieces for them to have an even better rematch, right? Like,
for sure.
For example, early on when they're basing for Rey stuff, you do see how green they both are. Like, it's challenging for them to take some of Rey's more dynamic stuff. But they're such good athletes that they can be in the wrong position and still, make it look perfect, right?
Yeah.
Because they're just physical freaks. What
It's
really
the
stood about
first
the
thing
match
that happens in the
yeah.
the first thing that happens in the match, right, is Shelton's out of place for that head scissors, so they just run it back immediately. But
Yep.
you have to be a fucking pervert like us to catch that because they just do it so seamlessly. Yeah.
There's one with Haas too where he thinks he needs to take a head scissor and gets himself in this unique position and then just sort of slams his way out of it, which is wild to look at. The thing that really stood out about this was it didn't have a ton of heat at the opening bell, and by the end, the people are desperate for Rey and Kidman when they boo a near fall where they're just so mad the heel kicked out. They give a standing ovation to Rey afterwards. Oracle, this is a hoot, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's awesome. Like the best way, and it's cliche is to describe Team Angle, World's Greatest Tag Team, is that they're machines. Like they work really well together. They're good, tag in and out. Always have good heat sections because they have such dynamic offense. Like you said, they're not basing super hard to do, but they're so athletic. They just find cool ways to do it anyways. Also, a bunch of cool stuff in here. Kidman does a springboard SSP, which is always awesome. The near falls, especially the Super Frankensteiner ruled. Yeah. Just a tremendous match. Again, one that I always sort of forget about, but it's like one of the more unheralded matches in the 2000s in the Fed. Just a tremendous match. Again, once you mentioned how great the crowd was at the end, just tremendous stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned it. It feels like no one really talks about this match anymore, right?
No.
Yeah.
I feel like no one really talks about Billy Kidman at all anymore in ring, which not necessarily that I have a huge issue with that, but it does. I'm right. You didn't see any Billy Kidman.
Kidman was a good worker, especially from the latter half of '98 until probably around this era. I actually like Kidman.
This. I think is him at his best, dude. outrageously jacked. Just
Oh yeah. No. That was later. Sorry. Hey.
No, he came
That's
after that
it.
here.
That was
Yeah.
it. That was it.
Oh,
You're on the
did he?
line.
Oh, you
That's
did.
all I wanted.
He
I was just
debuted that
waiting for
at
Oracle there. Waiting for him.
I'm pretty sure he debuted that at Survivor Series 02. Who did he wrestle? Anyway,
At the
not
Garden.
important. Yeah.
Noble, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I just thought if I could extend this Billy Kidman talk long enough, Oracle's going to do the thing. I just knew it. I felt it. How cool is that deal where Charlie Haas does it's like a Bubba bomb counter to Ray, where Ray's going for like a bulldog and he just slams him through the mat viciously. At one point, Ray takes the Brett bump into the buckle because again he is incredible in this. They have enough time for some double heat. Alex, this is there's a lot going on here. Most of it's good, huh?
Definitely. I didn't. In order to get to it, I would have to take a bunch of shit down. But I do have the show on DVD. In 2003, all the DVDs, the spines came together to make one big logo that said 2003, and it had like the different pay-per-views and shit in it. So I have every pay-per-view from a terrible year pay-per-view wise by and large, but I got to all of them. Because of that, I remember watching it numerous times in high school. And the theme song for the show was Price to Pay by Stained. And I had like this tickle of nostalgia when I fired the show up. And of course, on Peacock, they have it dubbed over with something else now. So, as you called out, Joe, a very, very famous show. We've spoken highly, myself and Oracle, of the Kevin Nash, Triple H Hell in a Cell from Bad Blood 03. But at the time, that show was not met with good reviews, and that was the first brand-specific pay-per-view. And so this followed it, and people were shitting in their britches over this show, man. So, and this match contemporaneously was a big part of that. And you guys have hit a lot of it so far. It's, Joe, one of the first things I thought was like, man, can you imagine like this, like 03, 02 Ray getting thrown into a tag match with the Steiner brothers in like 1992, like the fucking bumping he would do for those guys. Because the world's greatest tag team here is awesome. It's so simple, but I love their silver and maroon gear. It pops and looks really cool. And Ray's bouncing around like a fucking Super Bowl in this. Yeah, the note I have here, the first thing that happens is they kind of mess that up, but immediately catch it. There's a really, really awesome double like cutoff where world's greatest tag team sets up their leapfrog spot, and you think that's going to get turned into the 619, and both things get cut off, and the crowd is like it's as you mentioned at the beginning, the crowd's just like, yeah, whatever. They're sitting on their hands waiting for Sable versus Stephanie McMahon to come later in the show, but they get the crowd just constantly on the ascent here. The shooting star, I don't mean to correct you here, Oracle, but Kidman didn't even springboard into it. He just climbed into the middle of the top rope and did a shooting star to the outside. The only reason I bring that up is because, one, Billy Kidman's shooting star was not the most graceful. He wasn't AJ or Will Ospreay or anything. He just looked like a rotating bag of elbows and knees flying at you. And also not springboarding and then standing in the middle of the rope where it's bending the most. It's very impressive that he pulled that off the way he did, and I think Taz even called out as much. A spot here that doesn't get used often, and I think it's simple and looks awesome, so I don't know why it's not done more. Kidman's on the apron, and then Shelton's inside the ring, and then Shelton Irish whips Kidman into the ring post. So, like, Kidman just, I'm sure it sucks. That's why people don't want to do it, because it probably hurts like shit. But I think it looks great. Very weird part in this of the cameraman gets on the apron and puts the camera like into the ring, shooting the action, which, as we know, is not commonplace for WWF at any point in their history. So I was trying to figure it out. I remember at the time they were trying to do little quirks that separated Raw from SmackDown's presentation. But it happens for about a minute in this match and never again. So I assume it was an idea someone had. They tried it, and Vince said, "No, goddamn it, get the fuck off the apron." I laughed out loud that Shelton flies too close to the sun. he successfully powerbombs Kidman, so he thinks he can do it again. As most people know, you can't head scissor Austin Aries and you can't powerbomb Billy Kidman. And so he got away with one, but he learned his lesson the hard way here. Because fucking Rey Mysterio was content to give these people their money's worth. He does a front flip drop kick into the ring at one point, which is not a move you see very often at all, let alone from Rey Mysterio. And shout out to the WCW brethren, the Filthy Animals dusted off an oldie and used their old finish, which of course has been immortalized on the silver screen in the 2000 classic Ready to Rumble. So that's the huge false finish here, though, that the whole crowd bites on, which is great. And I love, too, that Haas and Benjamin win, like, fair and square. They just outsmart them as a tag team. Because we're going to talk about it here in a minute. Matches like this, it feels so fucking lame when it has, like, a chicken shit finish. And so the fact that they just outsmart them as a tag team, hit a fucking double team move, and that's it. I think that gives this way more of a punch on the finish.
I agree. I think it's really impressive too that for all the frills that we just mentioned, they get time, World's Greatest Tag Team, to show off some of their mat wrestling and the more quirky stuff to their style, which at this point really would have stood out, right? Like some of the holds they apply, especially Shelton, he has that bizarre hold that Taz pops for, where he like has his head into the spine of I can't remember who he's working over at that moment in time, but
I think it's Kidman because Taz like, I used to do this move, called it the Red Hook Stretch.
That's right, exactly. So they get a good spotlight. Just a quick side note. I know they didn't do great at the box office. I think single brand pay-per-views, I really believe this. I think they're imperative for the health of the brand split. I really believe that. I believe it. I think what it does for your mid-card of a Raw or SmackDown is immense, to be honest with you. Now, I understand it has its faults. I get it. But I mean, the World's Greatest Tag Team, you mentioned it earlier, they became a constant in terms of stealing these shows because they were on all of these pay-per-views as the tag team champions. You know, I just think there's something to be said for that. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Nonetheless, a hell of a time. Hell of a time. Alex, you're
when you started your point with, when you started your point with, I know they didn't do well at the box office, I was like, is he about to put over Ready to Rumble here?
You know me better than that. You know I wasn't going to put over Ready to Rumble. It'll never happen on this program. You know that. All right. Nonetheless, hell of a match to kick us off. And again, the reaction down the stretch is just incredible. I mean, there's a near fall and the heels kick out and the crowd is like, no, that's not fair. It's awesome. Following WrestleMania 20, Benjamin gets a push on Raw as a singles, as we mentioned, beating Triple H and ultimately becoming the IC champion. He kind of is presented as being up next, right, as a babyface and being kind of a future star. That stagnates. They kind of lose interest in him. And then we get to the angle with Shelton's mama. Oracle has removed himself from the program at this point. How does a young Robert O'Neill grapple with Shelton's mama being an angle, Bob?
Well, yeah, I mean, by then, I was 13 or 14, so it's like, all right, I kind of understand how this all works now. Like, I guess he does need a manager. He's not the best on promos or whatever. And then they're like, oh, they're going to give him a manager. That's awesome. And then, like, it was stupid, man. Like, just.
Have they ever said, like, did Vince watch, like, a TV show or a movie or something and thought it was funny?
I guess so. Like, there's not too many other options for what it could be. Like, I don't. It's clearly like intentional and targeted too. They didn't do that with anyone else, like to that degree. Like, if they were giving someone a manager, they just give him a manager. Like,
So
sabotage for the sake of sabotage.
Here's what's crazy. Her first appearance was January 2nd. Her last appearance was March 13th. That was her whole run.
Yeah.
But it's a thing that in your mind, because of it's the way it lives in infamy, you feel as though it was a lot longer than that, right? It's like it's 2 month run, dude. 2 months. I mean, the Final Testament were around longer than that, Bobby.
It's true.
They had staying power, remember? There was some truth to that. Anyway, along the way, we mentioned Money in the Bank earlier, the first Money in the Bank. Along the way, Shelton becomes the first, like, he's the Money in the Bank wrestler. Now, of course, the irony of that is he never wins it.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever even really considered to win one of these matches. But
no, he just does a couple big spots, and
he's the Money in the Bank guy, right? Like, he does crazy things in all of those matches. I remember him talking about him and MVP years ago on YouTube, talking about the last one, which Shelton doesn't even consider, like, he doesn't even think of that in his mind because they didn't let him do anything crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He had some crazy ideas. I think they realized he wasn't long for WWE and went, no, actually, Kofi can do crazy stuff now from this point forward, and that's the way it worked. But other than that, he does crazy stuff in all of those matches. And that, fair or unfair, right or wrong, unfortunately, that becomes like kind of his signature thing in the promotion for about 4 years. He's the guy who does crazy shit in Money in the Bank matches. Bobby, when does because there's a couple with Charlie Haas reunions, right? Along the way?
They try again with Haas. I mean, just not a lot going on. Like, we saw the Undertaker match. Obviously, we'll talk to that. He had some U.S. title reigns in there, but I don't think he ever wins the Intercontinental title again after that. And then, he's just kind of slowly getting phased out.
But the big kind of, the reboot he gets in the late 2000s is the Gold Standard run. Now, the story goes that Dusty was booking ECW. And the Gold Standard thing was actually supposed to lead him to the ECW title. That was the idea. And fellow late night Grin legend, Chavo Guerrero, was instead slotted in to become the champion. And so Shelton was unable to win the ECW title, which means we missed out on a bunch of debate about, when people say who's the best wrestler to not win the world title, we missed out on tons of debate where people go Shelton, and then Alex quotes it and goes, actually, he was the ECW world champion in 2008. And then Oracle replies, I loved his match with Matt Hardy. So these are the things we missed out on because Chavo Jr. was the ECW champion. It's kind of strange, to be honest, they did that because it wasn't like they had plans for Chavo. It was like they should just give Shelton the chance to do that on ECW, right? Like, I don't know. I don't really understand it, but yeah.
Would that have meant, though, that Shelton lost in fucking 7 seconds to Kane at WrestleMania?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's like... Chavo was the ECW champion and was still in the Rumble. Like, by that point, that belt means nothing, right? So, whatever.
Oracle, whoa, now.
Yeah, he's...
Come on now.
He is soon on SmackDown, though, as the Gold Standard, and gets... A push will be too strong, I think. But he is the US champion. He's almost never on pay-per-view. He's the US champion. And he's an upper mid-card heel. And we're about to talk about a match that's, wild on paper. He and The Undertaker from January 9th, 2009. This was taped on December 30th. JR and Taz on commentary SmackDown, which I always find kind of jarring. I have to be honest with you guys. Always slightly jarring. The My Network TV era of SmackDown. Alex, was you startled by the JR Taz combo here?
When I think of JR and Taz, I always think of the 2004 Rumble because the idea was they got the one guy from Raw and the one guy from SmackDown to do commentary together. And they have some really funny moments in that where like Taz is like, come on, JR, say Slabanaka, stuff like that. And so here, when they're like actually trying to play off each other, it's kind of weird.
Indeed. Shelton has 3 matches in this spell with The Undertaker. I was tasked as High Chancellor of Grin Grappler to go through these matches and declare the one that the Oracle of Wrestling remembers being good. I believe I found the right one. This felt very Oracle of Wrestling, limb work and things of that nature. This is the first of those 3 matches. There is a lot to like here. I don't want to overstate or be dramatic and say it's some sort of TV classic, but there are stylistic ingredients here that you look at and go, in a different under a different set of circumstances on pay-per-view, these two probably could have had a great match, like a genuinely great match. This is in itself is good. Alex, what did you make? Because I'm assuming you'd never seen this before.
You would be correct. My first note says, "Oh God, fake SmackDown crowd noise." It's that same, like that. I fucking can't. Yeah, man. Undertaker is like. Because his thing is like, oh, I get to be in there with a real athlete, so now I can be one of those too. And so right away, Jim Ross talks about his WrestleMania streak, and he goes, "It's like winning 16 Super Bowls in a row." Well, no, it's not, because it's fake. First of all, Taker though is in that weird, like he hasn't dyed his hair in maybe 2 or 3 weeks, so the sides are kind of silver and whatnot, while the rest of it's just fucking jet black. I'm having my fun early because I am going to be nice about this match. Because I can't remember. I don't know how many Taker matches we've done on here, but there's. So this is before the Undertaker match model became he just gets beat up and then comes back and wins. And in years following this, it would also become that any heel that got any sort of offense on him, basically the way anyone got offense on him for like the last fucking 6 or 7 years of his career was nefarious means, or Triple H had a chair. That's basically how anyone was allowed to beat up the Undertaker, or Bill Goldberg dropping on his head for real. So this is very refreshing to watch, and like also what's fucking sick is Shelton is just like standing strong and looking at him like, what the fuck are you going to do to me? Whereas like most people in his position through the entire range of the Undertaker's career are told to stand there and like look scared and shit. Like, and Shelton's just eyeing him down as he's walking to the ring. He looks like a fucking badass. And what JR or Taz, one of them comment on it like, yeah, he doesn't look too scared. And he's super aggressive, and he's like outpacing Taker. And then we mentioned limb work. Nigel McGuinness somewhere, taking notes watching this. And despite the fact he had already lost the Ring of Honor title. Anyway, or no, he was about to. Fucking up my joke here. That's what makes this so cool, is that Shelton is just hanging in there with the Undertaker by using a good game plan, as opposed to like poking him in the eye or kicking him in the dick or something like that. And then Taker just figures out a way. He wins because he counters him going for monkey flip with the choke slam, and then he counters him trying to like slingshot back over him with the tombstone. So it's not, at no point is it like the just typical Undertaker setup for these moves. It's you're exactly right in that I'm not about to tout this as like some unheralded TV classic that everyone right away needs to go and seek out. But I texted, this is like the only match I texted y'all about today. I was like, dude, that was awesome, because it's also concise, and it's just a match that makes sense, which when you deal with the Undertaker, for better or for worse, because he's had a lot of great matches, sometimes his matches don't particularly make too much sense because, he's supernatural. So I loved this. The funniest part to me, at one point, they do like a double down, and it's just kind of quiet. And it felt like almost like Taz didn't hit his cough button. He just says quietly to no one in particular. He goes, I'm kind of enjoying this match. Like, he just says that to himself. And I was like, yeah, me too, Pete. This is a good one.
I gotta say though, Alex, for the best pure striker, Taker is very reliant on that looping right hand, isn't he? Very Liddell.
Yeah, and his chin's always been suspect, so for him to just rely on that is a bit much.
I mean, all Shelton does is just circle occasionally, and Taker keeps getting cornered. I mean, it's really alarming stuff. But nonetheless,
Needed Teddy Atlas in the corner.
Indeed, I do. Could you imagine? I do love the shoot fight opening, because Shelton is legitimate, and so it feels like kind of you can kind of sink your teeth with it. Whereas if he did it to John Morrison, you kind of go, well. Chop block, cut off, can't go wrong with that. Taker is great at selling the leg. I'm afraid that people are eventually have to get comfortable with the fact that the Undertaker was very good for extended parts of his career, this being one of them. He is terrific in this match as the top guy who's helping an underneath guy up to his level.
I have my fun with it too, like the whole him. It is true. The Undertaker, he would step up his game when he was in there with a dude who had like a legitimate background.
Yeah.
I had my fun with the real athlete thing, but this is a shining example of that, of Taker thinking, all right, now I'm going to show these kids what I can do. So that came from a place of compliment, but got to get my dig. Yeah.
No, he does seem excited about working with Shelton. Like, genuinely, you get that sense. The second and third matches are a lot more kind of generic. This one has like genuine ideas and is cool. So I like this match. Certainly, the Oracle of Wrestling. This is a good time, huh?
Yeah, this is really good. I'm always like, a sucker for limb work. I really appreciated the opening minutes where Shelton's like, Taker's got the guard up and shit, and Shelton's like, yeah, and I think Taker works on the arm early. Terry Taylor works on the arm early.
Terry Taker,
brother. But Taker does some limb work of himself, on Shelton's arm at first. Shelton, of course, does the leg work. Taker's selling is great. I really like that Shelton kicked out of the chokeslam because, by that point, a lot of people were kicking out of the chokeslam, but it's still cool that Shelton Benjamin kicked out of the chokeslam. And the setup for the Tombstone was awesome. This was just a really strong TV match of the era. It kind of shows how, by this point, Shelton was very much a polished worker, and I really like his gold standard run. I think the run kind of backs up my claim that he's better as a heel. And this is also when this was at the tail end of when Taker was a very good wrestler. So yeah, this was a nice match. I'm glad it happened because Taker versus Shelton is it's kind of like a it ended up being ended up delivering.
Indeed, and for anyone who wants to watch this, if you type in the names on YouTube, you're initially going to get suggested a different match. It's important we stress this because they're going to be uploaded a different one of these 3 matches. So you want to get the date on this was January 9th. It's important because I think before Taker's retirement in 2020, they uploaded one of them to YouTube. So nonetheless, the big thing that I think was important to feature the gold standard was his style, right? The way he adjusted his style, that kind of bruising heavyweight style. This feels like the version of Shelton that we could have seen be a world champion if such a thing could have happened. And especially this era was a slimmer era too, if I'm being honest, in terms of, emerging names. Bobby, what did you make of the match and what do you make of this kind of version of Shelton? Go for it.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add about the match. You guys kind of covered all of it. I did like the finish kind of coming out of nowhere and Undertaker just being able to essentially catch him off guard and get it. It's a match laid out in such a way that a lot of TV matches featuring the Undertaker when he would wrestle on TV weren't laid out like that. So it was a really nice surprise. As far as Shelton working like this, yeah, I definitely prefer it. I think that he either could have switched it a little bit earlier maybe, or, stuck around and he would have maybe had some more success there. Like we talked about, there's a void of guys on SmackDown in particular in the next, 4 or 5 years after this.
Yeah, indeed. I think, unfortunately, what Oracle mentioned was the truth, which was he was overexposed as a mid-card contender. Yeah. I don't think there was, and it was a case of, and to be honest, this is something that really faded in the decade after him. That was still where Vince would look at it as, okay, it gets to a certain point where it's like, we even need to push this guy who needs to go, right? You can't just stay in the mid-card forever, which obviously would fade in the 2010s where guys would just sort of live in this never-ending cycle, which Shelton himself even would experience when he returns, right? So, an interesting one. This definitely feels like a glance at a different timeline for Shelton, or a different version of Shelton's career to me. Seeing him in there with a top guy like this, hanging in there, an interesting look. No question. Okay, before we move outside of WWE, what matches should we call out? I mean, obviously Shawn Michaels, right? No question. The Money in the Bank matches.
Yeah,
Alex?
We already mentioned it. If you are okay with watching matches involving the 2 dudes, Brock and Benny against Team Angle fucking rules. Tag match with Tadgers and Eddie. I think Bob called it out. Like that summer of 2004, where it's just like that deluge of 6-mans with Evolution and just like the random baby faces. Like, I can't think of any of those you could necessarily go wrong with, because it was Shelton, Jericho, Edge, Tajiri was in there sometimes. It was always really good shit. I was saving it for this point in the conversation. Someone I'd kind of beat us to the idea. Again, retweets are not endorsements. Vince McMahon was a very funny performer. In 04, there was a infamous Monday Night Football opening with Nicolette Sheridan and T.O. that garnered a lot of controversy and attention. And then so the next week on Raw, I believe it was the next week, they did a very similar thing with Shelton and Trish, and Vince comes in and like explains what's going on. It's very funny, and like it is like it's one of the we've joked since the genesis of the Grin Grappler, the idea of comedy and wrestling is often not very funny, and it's even more rare when something in wrestling strikes when something's like hot and like topical. So that whole thing's really good. Shelton's part of it. He's really good in his role too. So if you've never seen that, it's 20 years ago at this point, so the context might be lost, but it's something worth calling out because it's a famous piece of like Raw lore that Shelton Benjamin's attached to.
Indeed, you mentioned Jericho. They have a match on. Is it Taboo Tuesday?
Yes.
They have a couple. There's one on Taboo
Yeah.
Tuesday 4, and then there's Backlash 05, which is also good.
There you go. I know he and Kurt wrestle on the Eddie tribute show.
Yes, that match is great too.
Yeah, and they have another. I think they have another TV match.
After SummerSlam 05, right? Kurt and Shelton.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Christian ladder match we mentioned.
Yeah.
Did he
Question
have
there
any
in the chat.
good matches with Punk?
I don't know if they did
I don't
any
think he ever
singles.
had a program or even like a random. I think he had some like tags against Punk, but never anything like one-on-one.
Yeah,
Because
they
he
might
teams
have
with Elijah
one.
for a bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The question there, Oracle in the chat, did he wrestle either Dustin or Sheamus in 09 ECW?
Oh yeah,
Definitely
he
wrestled
wrestled
Sheamus.
He had a feud with Sheamus in 09.
Yeah, feud, yeah.
Oh,
and
my
he
God.
works with Kofi on ECW too, doesn't he? Like introduce Kofi's like big feud.
I
is him,
believe
isn't
he does
Yeah.
wrestle Kofi some.
He does,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good call in the chat. He had a triple threat with Carlito and Johnny Morrison. That was pretty fun.
He has a lot of good stuff in that run. So it's a good run. It's a really good run. I think we recently talked about when we watched
I think I remember the Cena match. That match was good.
Vengeance 05. When we watched that, like that was the last crop of mid carders. I think the fans really remember. You know.
It's a very interesting time that way because Batista and John Cena, for as like obviously megastars as they became, their match structure is still Hulk Hogan, like beating the evil bad guy. Meanwhile, there's this influx of like indie work rate Japan bullshit happening on the mid card. So the shows are always kind of weird, and Shelton's like kind of part of that. You think about some of the John Cena Batista stuff that was going on at that time, and then Shelton's doing fucking vertical leaps to the top rope, turning him into superplexes and stuff. So yeah.
And
It's
I think
easy to see why he stuck out.
Yeah, and I think that's important to talk about for when we get to this, you know, what's about to happen. So I think as a result of what you just described, Shelton Benjamin was like the hardcore fans' favorite WWE wrestler, right? And that's kind of weird in the sense that he's a completely he's a WWE product. Obviously OVW is different to getting trained there now, right? At the Performance Center, there's a different thing. But it's still like, it wasn't like he was, you know, fucking Christopher Daniels in the Independents or anything. Like he was an OVW.
Fallen Angel Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah, like, but you can tell, and I actually had forgotten it when we get to this next match, the atmosphere for this. You forget how much hype people were really excited about Shelton getting out of there, man. Like, and I think that's part of why there is debate about what followed. So I guess we'll get into this. So he leaves us after WrestleMania 26. He works in Puerto Rico in the summer, which popped me. And then he shows up in Jim Cornette's Smoky Mountain, Ring of Honor. Here in, oh my goodness. Oh, there they are too. Look at that. Why do you own that, dude? What were you thinking?
Against my better judgment, in the year of our Lord 2010, I ordered the iPay-per-view for this show because I was so excited about this match. And back then, when you ordered the iPay-per-view, they would give you this little fucking checkbox you could click before the purchase. It said, add DVD release to the show for $9. And so I was just like, yeah, I'll add that to the shelf. So
okay, there's a pitfall coming up here that I'm going to trust you all to avoid. This was Ring of Honor Glory by Honor. It took place on September 11th, 2010.
Bobby.
There you go. Tried and failed. My understanding is like Cornette, obviously in charge of Ring of Honor, he got a pretty good deal on the lads. Because how crazy is it? Shelton's got TNA got all over him, dude. Shelton Benjamin at the Impact Zone saying he was held down by Bruce Pritchard, whoever the fuck, is like the most TNA thing you could imagine, right?
TNA. Yeah.
Doing Ultimate X matches in the exact same spot, like. Yeah, but instead he went and reunited with Cornette, which makes sense. And I know Cornette was thrilled to have them, and they were called the Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team. This is their debut as the Manhattan Center is with the Kings of Wrestling, Claudio Castagnoli and Chris Hero. This has an incredible atmosphere. An incredible atmosphere at Manhattan Center. It's their debut, and unfortunately, it's their peak too in Ring of Honor. It does not get better than this. This is the signature match of their run. It's not as though it's perfect, but there's a lot to like here, I thought. I'm intrigued what you all thought of this. Lord Oracle, had you ever seen this before, firstly? And secondly, what did you think of it?
I have never seen this before. The first thing that came to mind was I have the memory of Hero being in like insane shape from NXT, not from before. Yeah. I did not realize how skinny he was during like the Kings of Wrestling era.
He's like cut here.
Yeah, like he's like in insane shape. Because the Hero that I see is like the IWA Mid-South Chris Hero from like 2001 to like 2007
with the fucking rash guard and the Glad trash bag pants,
and the 2014 to 2020 Chris Hero. That's the one that I see. So like and the brief, and the NXT run where he's like obviously gaunt, to be honest. He's in insane shape here. So that was actually jarring for me. This match was good. It went a little bit too long for a match that felt a bit your turn, my turn for my taste. But the atmosphere is kind of what makes it. And the guys just bust out crazy shit the whole time and like, cool tag moves. I have to point out that I was certainly a big fat head growing up. As so I wasn't watching. I was a senior in high school at this point. So I wasn't watching like Ring of Honor or anything outside of WWE. I would watch some. By this point, I was watching old stuff from like the 80s and 90s, but I wasn't watching like, basically from anywhere. But I wasn't watching like any other modern wrestling besides WWE, other than like the indies I might go to locally. So like this is like a huge gap for me. I was aware that Shelton and Haas had gone over to Ring of Honor. The crowd is really what makes this match, I think. They just do all kinds of wild stuff. There's, of course, the screwjob finish. I think it was Shane Hagedorn came out. And was holding back Shelton or whatever out there on the floor. And then Shelton and Charlie beat the shit out of everybody in the post-match. This is a good match. Again, it's not an era that I'm familiar with.
Count your blessings,
also,
brother.
The same era of Ring of Honor where I was told, everybody's talking about this match. Go watch this Michael Elgin, Davey Richards match from 2012, and I watched it.
All right, that was unnecessary.
Low blow.
That's the one. We're here now. Oracle brought us here. That was the original breaking of Dave's rating system. People, when he gave that 5 stars, people were like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" So.
Yeah, but his boy was booking the show, and he was trying his best, wasn't he? He's trying his best, the poor fella. He loved him. He loved the UFC, Alex.
There is a part in that match. There was a dragon suplex off the top rope, which of course I lost my shit for.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, Oracle. Low
There's
blow.
good stuff in all those matches. There's just too much stuff in there. Really, that's the honest truth. So I don't disagree, Oracle, about the turn taking, but I think that was probably the right play for this crowd. I think
of course, yeah.
I
love
the bigger
that's
issue.
Point you bring up, it was certainly the right play. Like these at this point, like hardcore fans and stuff like that, it was very much like Do you have an expectation of a match you want to see? I mean, like at that point in time, it would have been a pretty bad idea to for Hero and Claudio to work Charlie Haas's arm. You know what I mean? It just
And
wasn't a
that's the
good
stuff.
idea. Yeah.
You mentioned the length. That's the stuff that's sticky on rewatch when they go into heat segments. The crowd dies for the heat set. They have no interest. They want to see the exhibition, rather than they want to see the
Correct.
offensive showcase. Which is, I think, a big part of why Cornette and Ring of Honor wasn't a good marriage. He kind of turned the King. I think he loved the Kings of Wrestling. I think he wanted them to be the Midnight Express.
Yep.
And I think it was very obvious that on this roster they should have been more like bruisers and more kind of like a Gaijin, All Japan team.
He loved Hero. I think if I remember part of the narrative correctly is that led to some tension with Hero and Steen and a couple other guys
And I know because of Hero's wrestling fandom, when he would give him Bobby Eaton spots, Hero would be all over it, right? I just don't. I don't really like their stuff in this particular time because I think it made them worse. Yeah, I like their stuff beyond, but this Cornette stretch, I don't know. I just think the heat segments and stuff it didn't suit them. I don't think. I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it maybe, but nonetheless, much happening here. It is a good Shelton Benjamin performance, and in addition to that, Alex mentioned Charlie Haas is fired up, and I thought he was honestly the best thing about the match. He's intensity of him. Yeah, absolutely shredded. Spot on.
He looks well.
He looks well.
Yeah.
Kevin Kelly on commentary, who occasionally you just can't hear at all. One of his better calls, I would say. And Bobby, I don't know if you'd ever seen this. What did you make of this, Max?
I had seen this before. I was fired up to watch it again. Like you said, the atmosphere is great. I kind of like everyone being able to get their shit in, but that's just kind of every possible combination of guys that can, be in the ring in this match. So that helped. Shelton near the end does the thing where he jumps the top rope and does a superplex, which always rules. I think, the thing is, and I'm obviously not well-versed in this era of Ring of Honor. I've seen, this match and the one against the Briscoes, and that one's good. So I guess really just why do you think it didn't work out for them there?
I think I actually think it's a really frustrating thing, and it's an interesting topic. So I think it's very obvious looking at this could have been a natural fit. And I think it's very obvious this audience was this wasn't a case which happened a lot. For example, I think on this show, Alex, it might have on the back of your DVD, I think Sean Devari is on this show. I think.
Well, give me a moment here.
Right? Doesn't he work with Eddie on this show?
He does. Oh, yeah, this was the thing I wanted to call it. There's a tag match on this show.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start with the lowest common denominator on this. Eric Stevens and the Necro Butcher against Balls Mahoney and Grizzly Redwood. That's what we were doing.
But yes, yeah.
Fuck him.
Yes. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. So this was not when Jim Cornette booked Sean Devari. It was get this fucking TV wrestler off my Ring of Honor, when he brought in the headbangers, bro. He brought in the headbangers to work with the Briscoes. And he hid them under a gimmick because he was too pussy to live and die by it. The world's greatest tag team were not that. This audience was these are guys we want to see in Ring of Honor. These are real wrestlers. It should have worked, but I think their matches began to divide opinion because Cornette agented them in a way that didn't suit the audience. And then once that happened, I believe their motivation waned considerably.
Okay.
And I think because Cornette lost his enthusiasm for the project because he genuinely believed they were going to turn into the new UFC. Once I think Cornette realized it wasn't going to turn out, I think Haas and Benjamin both just kind of were this is not really worth us killing ourselves,
Since we're here, on this same show is the double dog collar match with Steen and Carino against Generico and Steen, Steen and Carino against Generico and Cabana. The reason I bring this up is because I think it plays into exactly what Joe's talking about, because at this point in time, Ring of Honor, the idea, the perception of it, and the future of the company is in a bit of a power struggle, because the Steen Generico program is the big thing that they have. And Cornette fucking hates that because it's he hates those guys, and I don't know about hate, but he doesn't like their matches and doesn't like that. And so he's trying to make this other stuff happen. And I think it leads I don't think I know because I lived through it. After this, like Ring of Honor for several years falls into a pit of substantial identity crisis of like they don't know what they want to be anymore. And sorry to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, Joe, here, but I think this match is so emblematic of where they were because the crowd here is so rabid and it feels like one of those 2003-04 Ring of Honor shows just from the crowd perspective. But then the presentation, I mean, like there's this video before the match where they have Hero and Claudio sitting down, like, you know, they're asking him questions before they're going to go out to the octagon to fight. Like it's a very strange time. And I never considered any of those things you said, but that all in my mind makes perfect sense. I think Shelton Benjamin showed up in Ring of Honor with obviously the best of intentions, and they knocked it out of the park despite a shit finish on this match in their first outing. But I think it just kind of the bloom was soon off the rose, and all parties kind of started to kind of fade with it.
And I was watching the post match, and I was just reminded of like some of Cornette's outdated ideas and like the way they talk about Claudio, where they do the thing of, oh, did you see he was paying attention to Roger Federer earlier and I was just thinking,
dude,
like,
it's such like Buddy Landell shit.
Exactly what it is, dude.
Yeah,
exactly. You can feel like you can hear him pitching it, can't you? You can hear Cornette explain. Maybe it wasn't him, and I'm being unfair, but that's the way it feels.
Yeah, there's no reason to believe it wasn't either, because again, God bless him. He's one of, to me, the two greatest wrestlers that's ever lived. But the main event of this show, that is like the coronation of Roderick Strong as a champion, hinges on Terry Funk's involvement. Like he comes out,
yeah.
You know, it's also, I don't know if y'all agree with this. This is Cornette 101 of the fucking weapon that the heel team uses to win. They should have just had Haas and Benjamin win the tag belts in their first outing. Yes. Here is what should have happened.
I mean, anything but this finish, really, because this was not, again, and this goes back to where it all started, like, it's not going to get the kind of heat that he thinks it's going to get. Like, that's the problem. That's the problem with this. And I'm not even saying I disagree with Cornette on this, because I don't really like that this is where it was. These fans were there for the star rating, man. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's an ideal thing. To be honest, it kind of sucks. But the reaction to this finish is not, oh fuck, I really want to see them get their revenge on the Kings of Wrestling. It's like, oh, that was a lame finish. Dock a star, you know? That's what it is, man. Like, it's a different thing. So again, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that's the
it's you certainly can feel not.
Alex. Yeah, go for it. Take it away on the match, mate. Go for it.
Because the evolution of that now is fans being performative about being mad of shit finishes.
Right. Yeah.
Also, what's up, Klein? I'll jump on this grenade because obviously Cornette's a sensitive topic. I think I can speak for myself and Joe. We're certainly not Cornette haters. The man, he can deliver a line. He's funny sometimes. He has some good ideas. His bad ideas are very bad, and they're very easy to make fun of, I think is the easiest way I could put it about Cornette.
Yeah, I mean, my honest take on it is I actually, you know, as much as I poke fun at the Smoky Mountain part of this equation, at this point in my fandom, I watch more Smoky Mountain wrestling than I do Ring of Honor. And I like, and in that way, I've come around to a lot of stuff. I like a lot of the same things. I just think anyone who lived through this or has watched this stuff is aware this was like a diabolical fit. Like it was really bad.
Because the problem is you're going from Bryan Danielson style wrestling to Cornette thinking he can maintain that, but then also injecting element like the one I always go to. I think I've mentioned this before on this podcast. The lawyers that Kevin Steen got to have like his contract review, like all that shit. They did those segments where it was just a bad fit. Now this
Davey Richards presentation, all of it. Carry on.
Davey Richards in general, which is funny because one of the matches I'm going to plug from this act has Davey in it. But I was going to say the presentation of Davey Richards in general is offensive. This match is not though. The ending is very silly and unfortunate, but. Yeah, okay, so Charlie Haas comes out here just fucking jacked to the gills, and he is so fucking intense in this. Like, there's some chop exchanges in this that are just fantastic, and he's one of those guys you can tell halfway through the match because the crowd's so into it, it kind of gives him a second wind, and he's just like, fuck yeah, get me back in the ring so I can throw these dudes around. No secret, Chris Hero is one of my favorite professional wrestlers of all time. Kings of Wrestling are one of my favorite tag teams of all time. I will always have more of the nostalgia for when Claudio refused to let the hair go, and he still had the stringy long hair, and Hero's in the fucking shindy CZW gear that he had. But here, they look like pro wrestling stars, man. They're both, 6'5", 6'6", and there's a timeline out there, because this was just less than a year after Claudio originally got signed, but then something happened. I don't know if that was ever really revealed.
What happened was, I believe, he didn't fulfill his bookings, and that was the era where they was like, whatever you do, fulfill your indie days, which then they would like obviously change on 8 times in the years that followed. But that was what happened apparently.
Right on. But anyway, there's an alternate reality or an alternate timeline where these two guys get signed at this point in time in the WWF and have a great television run. Joe, and I'm sure you were getting bricked up like I was at these real wrestling exchanges, the rides and the sit-outs that were going on in the ring, man. I was fucking living for it. Claudio is a really interesting one to have in here because I think in many ways Claudio and Shelton are kind of peers in terms of what they accomplished and the legacies they'll have. And we talked about this whenever James Storms comes up. Ain't no shame in being one of the greatest tag wrestlers that's ever lived, and Claudio is certainly one of them. And Shelton obviously has a role not too far off from that. I laughed out loud. Shelton gets what would be the hot tag, and Hero low bridges him, and so he falls out of the ring. And then Hero just jumps off the apron and puts him in a cravat on the outside of the ring. I know he still wasn't doing that quite as obnoxiously as like in the old CZW days, but anytime he would like sarcastically put a cravat on someone made me fucking that was immediate pop for me. When Haas gets the actual hot tag of this, I don't know if any of y'all caught it. He drop kicks Chris Hero square in the face. Like he jumps up, and it is awesome. I rewound it and hooted and hollered every time that I watched it. There's a really funny part where Hero gets shit canned to the outside, and that was the Manhattan Center, so it was just concrete with a layer of carpet over it. It was just like a hotel ballroom, and you hear him hit the floor, and then whatever camera was near him just picks him up going, "Oh!" Like he just screams out in pain. I thought that was pretty funny. Shelton gets the big leap and superplex, as we talked about. This match kind of lived in not infamy, but in my friends' circles for a while, because we all got together to watch the pay-per-view. And I don't know if any of y'all caught it. There's a sign in like the balcony that said Shelton Rules, and it's spelled RULZ. And it looks like it's printed on like fucking dot matrix paper that someone just made it in a computer from 1994 and brought it to the show. Yeah, exactly. I remember we just got like such a huge kick out of that. So for a while in the group chat, people would just randomly text Shelton Rules with 4 exclamation points. But to be completely honest with you, it's better than I remembered, and a really fun match, because I remember the same thing of finding the Ring of Honor stuff to be wholly underwhelming, and so this was a pleasant surprise. Thumbs up.
Yeah, I agree. As much as we talked about all the surrounding pieces, I actually agree. Like, I forgot how excited people were for this, and I forgot the atmosphere was that hot. And I thought the match mostly like lived up to it. Again, you wish they'd have gone for a different finish. No, I did think they go a little heavy on heat. Like the second cut off that you mentioned where he pulls the top rope down feels like one of those things that, like, I don't know, that's an unusually clumsy moment for Shelton, right? Who's usually so graceful in there. But the action is terrific. Like when he launches him up, right, and Hero meets Shelton head on with the elbow. My goodness, what a moment. Some spectacular stuff.
Did you see this as the crowning of one Messiah the Backbreaker, Roderick Strong, as
we did
champion?
This is the Terry Funk business we were discussing.
This is yes, this was Tyler Black's final Ring of Honor match. Out of morbid curiosity, I went and watched it, and I'm proud to say that it is still the exact same match he has as every week on TV. So
Yeah, I should have known that was where that was headed. Dude, that lariat from Hero early. There's some great stuff in it. This is actually, I agree. This is really
I
good.
definitely remember the lariat. That's
Kings of Wrestling, their tag offense was so fucking cool. Like that thing they would do where Claudio would hold him up in the vertical suplex and then Hero would pendulum him down. So, the idea of that is the blood rushes to your head and then you're disoriented and he would come up behind you with the elbow. Like they were fucking awesome, dude. It's so high impact tag offense. And the matching gear too. I can't say enough. It's unfortunate Shane Hagedorn was outside.
It is kind of stunning that Tony is like, thinking of Tony Khan, the way Tony Khan's wrestling brain works, it is stunning he hasn't done a Kings of Wrestling one-off, isn't it? If it was like it was saying he would absolutely do on Death Before Dishonor 2028 or whatever the fuck. I'm sure we'll get it one day, I'm sure. But yeah, I found this kind of frustrating in that I think I had retroactively decided that Shelton was just one of those guys who was like an all WWE worker, didn't work outside, didn't fit outside. And then this match makes it very apparent he actually easily could have fit in. I just think it didn't work out the way that everyone wanted it to. He does some incredible stuff in this match physically, doesn't he? My goodness. Spectacular.
He's fired up too. It's one of those things you can tell both of them didn't really know what kind of reception to receive, and so they get fucking like jacked off the crowd when they get out there. Yeah. Charlie
Haas had some interesting moments in Ring of Honor. Alex, do you remember the this is a loaded question. Let me make clear one right here. One of those, do you remember when Jim's talking about the office boy or Greg, whoever the fuck is that? Ross, Greg, the two guys that ruined everything. And in the midst of it, he just goes, one time Charlie Haas threatened to knock him out. And all that is the only thing I think about when I hear Charlie Haas in Ring of Honor, among other things. He had a tumultuous time of it there. He seems to be doing a lot better now, does Mr. Haas.
He was working some DFW indies towards the end of his Ring of Honor run, and there were reports of him fighting fans and causing scenes and whatnot. So he kind of went through it there for a minute, but to your point, I think he's come out the other side.
Indeed, I think he even reemerged and did he didn't get a match with Josh Alexander. I know he got hurt, but he had a little comeback run on TV. So good on him. He's awesome in this match. He probably is actually underrated, to be ironically, right? If it was like no one ever talks about Charlie at this point. All right, nonetheless, Ring of Honor. I believe Shelton's last Ring of Honor match. I think his last Ring of Honor match is the match where they do the Maria Kanellis spot. The Maria Kanellis spot where he works with Bennett and Maria thinks it's Bennett. And
pretty sure that was a final battle.
Maybe it wasn't his last. I don't know. Because I remember it being kind of like he's like a babyface singles. It's just sort of him wrapping up his run.
Haas,
go for it.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about it now. It might have been that same show. Haas and BJ Whitmer had like that street fight where they did that fucking header through the table. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
It's like an overhead belly to belly. Yeah, has nothing to do with Shelton, but I just remembered it and
works. They are the team that I'm pretty sure they're the team that dropped the straps to All Night Express, and Kenny King shows up on TNA. I'm pretty sure that's who they win the belts from, right, Alex?
That would sound about right. Yeah.
Kenny King shows up, and Cornette threatens to kill him or whatever, and
because again, both of those guys, King and Rhett Titus, I'm sure are lovely fellas, but Cornette saw something in them as wrestlers that I will never see in my life.
That is the part of. I think people know the Jim Cornette, Kenny King beef, but they don't realize that the narrative at the time was, what the fuck does he see in the All Night Express? That's lost now because they leave. They don't leave. Kenny leaves. So they're now like bitter enemies, which is hilarious for a range of reasons. All right, enough about Ring of Honor for now. So Shelton would soon reemerge in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He may have even been doing New Japan before he left. I don't know, because he is. Everyone always says Shelton X Benjamin, right? That's the way people remember him. That was his thing. Because in Japan, of course, when there's a mystery partner, it'll be X. That's the way it'll be listed. So it was MVP and X. And he was MVP's partner, so he was Shelton X Benjamin. MVP is not, at that point, I think he's winding down his run. And so Shelton then moves on to be part of Suzuki Gun, which means he gets to rock those awesome fucking tracksuits. And whatever you think of Shelton's run in Japan, some all-time great wrestling imagery is the lads in those tracksuits. Suzuki Gun was a really cool looking faction, dude, no question. In 2015, I believe after Suzuki works with Sakuraba, I believe, this is when Noah is in a pretty tough spot, and New Japan, Suzuki Gun heads over from New Japan to Noah for a year, and they do this year-long kind of struggle for the future of pro wrestling. Noah and Suzuki Gun is running the thing. We joined that at the tail end of the run, November 8th, 2015, the Noah Global League final. Shelton faces Marufuji. There's a little pre-match promo on the video that we all watched, right, where it legitimately gives you the vibe of like heavyweight Gaijin in 1994 Japan, right?
Yeah.
It's like so awesome. And his thing is, they're trying to kill Noah, and he's gonna try and shut this thing out before Marufuji can kind of, reclaim the promotion by winning this tournament and then facing Suzuki, I believe is where they were headed. This is a match I remember like vividly for some reason. It's, to me, by far his best match in Japan. I know some people really like the Shibata stuff, and some of that is good, but I just think this is like a really strong Shelton Benjamin performance. I'm intrigued if you fellas co-sign that assessment. Alex, had you ever seen this, and what did you make of it?
I have not seen this, but I have like a faint memory of when it happened, like the response online being positive. Yeah. Now, help me out here. Where are we in the Marufuji decline at this point in time?
That's a really loaded question on a Tuesday night. I mean,
well, the probably started when he debuted, right?
I don't know if people would have at the time would have seen him as being in decline so much as this is his heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? Like he's heavyweight incarnation.
Oh, I meant like physically. So he's not like his arm's not atrophying yet or anything, right?
No, I don't think he's like falling apart. I mean, I was actually thinking about when I was watching it in the sense that like in my mind, I think of him as two different wrestlers. Like the mid 2010s, I think of as very differently to the guy that was wrestling Kenta in the juniors and so. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but I was watching this thinking to myself, he's still razor sharp here. And this is before the Okada match. Remember the Okada match that people got really excited about, which was spectacular. That's a couple years after this, I think. So 18 months after this, maybe a little bit less. But yeah. So yeah, I think he's still very close to the top of his game. Okay.
Because like in the past decade, like since then, he's had like a physical deterioration to some extent. Like, and that's I was walking next to him into Allegiant for WrestleMania, and I didn't even realize it was him because he was so like I'm not talking bad about the dude because he's put himself through a lot physically, but he's just kind of frail and like diminutive now. And I was like,
when was this?
The second night of WrestleMania this year in Vegas.
I didn't know this happened.
Yeah, I was just walking and it was like, just walking in stride with someone, and you get to that point in the sidewalk where it narrows down, so you let him go in front of you. And I was like, it's Marufuji. So that was strange. But the point of this is because that AJ match, and then what was the other really infamous match that happened in the past several years? But did he wrestle Ibushi? Was that the one people were?
That was the one that was, because the AJ match was kind of a miracle, to be honest. That match was surprisingly good. The Ibushi match was catastrophic. Yes, it was very bad.
Okay. Yes. So you were exactly right. When I was in college, Marufuji and Kenta, and then when Marufuji came over and wrestled Danielson, and then at Glory by Honor in 2005, he wrestled fucking Nigel. Like, that is a different guy than obviously what is who is around today. So I honestly didn't know what to expect with this because I didn't know when it all started and whatnot. This is a very good match. It's very, that Japanese frame style match, which if you like that, this is going to be up your alley. The chop exchanges are great. It's in Budokan, so like the acoustics are perfect for fucking, just exchanging chops and whatnot. This is I don't know if there's a better high level or high profile match like this that is a complete Shelton Benjamin start to finish. He carries this entire match, and it's obviously what Marufuji kind of did. He would take an ass whooping and then come back. Like that was kind of his deal, and he just gets the shit beat out of him here. There's he gets a couple of really awesome hope spots, including like this bicycle knee when Shelton tries to jump at him. That's really fucking great. But Shelton is this match isn't 5 stars or however you want to grade your match on the highest level, but for what we're doing here, I was pretty borderline blown away by Shelton's performance in this.
I agree.
And the overhead belly to belly from the top rope where Marufuji ends up in the other corner, I thought that fucking ruled. When I was watching this, I thought this was going to be the only performative referee spot in the whole thing until we got to our last match, because the referee goes 1, 2, and he's so committed to coming down for the 3, but cuts it off that he falls over in the ring. And someone would say, "Hold my beer." And I got a few things to do. I do love, because it's Japan, baby. Shelton has to do the fighting spirit spot at the end where he screams and powers up and whatnot. It's fucking great. What is Marufuji's finish here, man? It's a fucking fisherman buster into an emerald frozen.
Yeah.
I lost it, dude. I don't know if that was something he was using all the time at that point, but yeah, this is great. I'm not going to tell anyone because it is a long match. It's 25 minutes or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to be you have to seek this out. But man, this is a in that folder of Grin Grappler matches that I didn't have too much knowledge of, and through this project, I will now have to cite in future references. Ending point, pretty fucking great Shelton Benjamin performance.
Most certainly. You did misspeak, so I'll do this for you so you don't realize you did this in 2 weeks. This was Korakuen Hall, not Budokan. Don't DM Alex. He knows he just said the wrong thing. Yeah.
Okay. My bad.
Yeah. You
I know
listening to this back in August going, fuck.
I know the visuals, so my heart was in the right place.
Yes, sir. We're on the same page this, and I've always believed, I've said this before, he does some good stuff in New Japan. For whatever reason, I thought Shelton really figured out what he should be in Japan in Noah. I don't know if that was the sort of greater space that he had, the more extended role that he had. He's presented here as the last line of defense before Suzuki, right? That's his role. And Alex laid out, he's a monster here, man. My goodness, he is just framed as an absolute destroyer and lives up to his performance. This is a spectacular showing physically. Now, whether or not the great Oracle of Wrestling liked it is a very different matter altogether. A big Marufuji fan, as we know. Oracle, what did you make of this?
All my jokes aside, this match was fine. I thought Shelton was really good in it. Shelton's offense was crazy. He just this is my favorite version of Shelton. He's like this here. And he's also like it in the last match we'll talk about, where he just has a crazy offensive display and uses power and brute and his athleticism and kind of bullies, a little bit. I think those are his strengths as a worker. Actually, again, I don't love him as a babyface. I really prefer him as a heavyweight brute, kind of tossing people around and doing cool shit on offense. But yeah, this match was pretty good.
Yeah. It definitely has extended his career, this version of him, right? Because he's obviously more explosive in this than he is in the last match, but he's kind of doing the same thing, as you said. And whatever you think of 2005 Shelton Benjamin, he would not have been able to do that in 2025.
Right,
he just physically can't do it.
He just wasn't a smart enough worker yet at the time.
Yeah, exactly. This version of him it's extended his career, because you said he's this kind of heavyweight brute, and frankly, as the talent pool in wrestling has got smaller, he looks bigger every time you see him. In AEW, he's like Andre at times, it feels like.
I'm glad you said that, Joe, so I didn't have to.
Well, no, and I think, if you're getting ahead of us, but I think the key is that you work in a way that embraces that, right? You don't go 50-50 with him, right? Which I think is something we'll debate later. Dude, Marufuji's chops are vicious in this setting, especially. You mentioned the acoustics, Alex, of Korakuen, that sound it makes. Oh my goodness! And Shelton's got the chest for it. So Jesus, I dig this, man. It gives me kind of a old school pro vibe. I like it a lot, Bobby. What did you make of this? Before you tell us, though, do you have any advice to people that have enjoyed this so far?
Yeah, you go ahead and smash that like button. We've been here since the start. It's your second time, so that's an even number. You're gonna have to do it at least one more time, but that's okay. We'll remind you again.
At least one more.
At least.
Yes, go for it, Bobby. On the match.
I enjoyed this match a lot. I had seen it before. A lot of people talked about it quite a bit on social media the past few years. It would circulate very often as, Shelton's so good in Japan. What are they doing with him in WWE? So I finally watched it a couple of years ago. It's good. It's very good. I enjoyed it while I was watching it today too. They bring the physicality, and Shelton in particular, kind of like everyone else has said, is on display here. And it worked for me, man. It was a lot of fun.
There's some awesome stuff here. Like you mentioned, Alex, when he catches him with that knee out the air.
Yeah.
There's that sweet catch power bomb. That the aforementioned fire up the Shelton gets late. I don't know, man. I think it's a shame. I think he really was starting to figure out what he should be as a wrestler in Japan as a heavyweight, and then he's gone soon after this, right? So, kind of a bummer in that way. But this is the signature match of that run. I think we'll get into some of the other candidates here in a moment. So, there we go. Noah Globally. We reckon this is on YouTube too, right, fellas? This was the one that was had the upload with the interview and stuff. So check this out. It is a hell of a time. Okay, other matches from this second post-WWE act of Shelton's career. The Nakajima match. I think the one that's after this, I think, is the good one. There's two Nakajima matches. I remember one being slightly better than the other. I could be wrong on that. There's some good stuff with Shinsuke. I believe there's a tag that is Shelton and Suzuki versus Shin and Ishii, I think it is, which is really good. And almost was the match I put forward for this act. And the stuff with Shibata is good too. They're the things that stood out to me. Is there any matches from this act that you guys would like to call out here before we return to the World Wrestling Federation? Anything could all come to mind. Alex, you're scanning your DVDs, I'm sure.
Yeah. Trying to remember if he wrestled DJ Hyde at any point in these years.
Yeah, this is kind of an era where I just haven't seen.
Yeah,
I saw a few of these Noah matches because was he wrestling in Japan in 13 and 14?
Yeah, that's when he's doing.
I remember watching a couple of Shelton matches that were nominated on WKO many years ago.
Yeah, and I do think it's important to say his run in Japan is not it's not like he flops. Yeah, but exactly right. He's just in the middle. It's up and down. I think sometimes the overcorrection on people saying he was like a god.
He's not a Matt Bloom, right?
Well, who can be? I mean, really, who could be Matt Bloom? But yeah, he's no Machine Gun Carl Anderson, Or
there you go.
Good hand.
There you go. That's a better one. Much better one.
Did they have? I feel like one of the Briscoe matches was in ROH.
There's one that I used to be able to remember this stuff. There's one that's main events. It's the same night as Daniels and Eddie's draw. Is it the anniversary show? Do you remember their draw, Alex? Eddie Edwards, Christopher Daniels, they have a time limit draw, and then they go on after that. And it's good, but I don't know. I never thought those matches were as good as you'd want them to be,
Yeah, they sound so fucking awesome on paper. I did have, I actually had one from another ROH DVD that I have that I remember being good.
Physical media.
Look at that. There's a real tag team for you right there.
Wow.
It's Shelton Benjamin and Davey Richards against the Kings of Wrestling and Roderick Strong. It's a 6-man tag.
Ooh, that does sound good.
Yeah.
That does sound good. I'm going to have to investigate that. Okay, give me a second here. I just add this one. When I hear Roderick Strong, I add to my watch list accordingly. Okay, this has got 1 rating on Cage Match. I'm not sure I've ever seen this match. Interesting. All right, thank you, Alex.
Can always
Oracle,
count.
you said, Roderick Strong suggestions. Oracle, you obviously said you're not familiar. Bobby, anything you'd want to call out from this time, mate?
No, I don't think so. I haven't seen a lot of it except one of the Briscoes matches. The one after the cosmetically pleasing promo is good from what I remember. So whenever that was.
Dragon mentions an Ishii single. I don't remember the Ishii singles match. I have to check that out. But yeah, the Shibata stuff is good.
I remember
definitely.
watching the 2014 G1 matches. Some of those are decent.
One of the G1s he's in, it probably is 2014. Machine Gun Carl Anderson thought it was very funny because Shelton won. You know, Ghetto used to do the thing. I think he still does it, I guess. He would do the
Bad
thing where,
booking?
like, well, he would do the thing where a guy would get off to an incredible start. One of my favorite shoot sport tournament tropes, like a guy would go 4-0 and then lose every match in the rest of the tournament. And one year Shelton does that, and Machine Gun Carl Anderson thought it was so funny because Shelton totally thought he was winning the G1. He showed up to the building and was going over every night, pumping his fist. Let's fucking go. So I remember that one of the years, and he ended up being like 4-5, or something to that effect. So yeah, I mean, he was obviously he was a good fit, and it's always a big thing. Like when the Japanese, promoters bring in a gaijin, they want there to be a certain level of legitimacy, right, and credibility. And I think Shelton was a bit of a throwback in that way, wasn't he? And I think now, through 2025, eyes, I think,
oh man,
I found myself nostalgic about the idea of that now, and that's 2015. It's like,
dude, Inoki would have fucking loved Shelton Benjamin,
right? I don't want to do it used to be better for 2015 because a lot of stuff was much worse actually, but the level of gaijin was because there was more money, wasn't there, in the scene? I mean, clearly,
yeah.
It was just not that Noah was doing well, but obviously Noah was borrowing those guys. So anyway, enough about mid-20s Japan.
And you're like, to your point, my thing of watching Shelton's like big, brooding, slow talking, like gaijin promo beforehand, I was like, fuck yeah, dude, because now it doesn't exist.
No.
Like,
now,
Jay
there's
White
good gaijin
yelled.
talent, obviously.
Yeah.
Like Zack Sabre Jr., whatever you think of Zack's style, obviously he's a really good wrestler. No question he's a great wrestler, but he's a different archetype to the big bruising American, destroyer, right? Like Shelton's presenting this as a guy who's going to destroy a pro wrestling Noah. That's fucking awesome. You can't do that with Gabe Kidd. I'm sorry.
I was about to ask Oracle, any thoughts on Gabe Kidd?
Lame kid, maybe.
Oh, yeah, I mean, this is.
We might need to sell that shirt on the LNG T public.
More like lame kid.
More like lame kid. Yeah.
I have to say, my friend Ibu talking himself into Triple Crown champ Davey Boy Jr. is one of the saddest things that I've ever experienced a friend go through. It was like it was like watching someone battle a crippling addiction. He was like, I'm talking myself into this All Japan thing. I was like, why? Davey Boy Jr. is the champion. I was just like, fuck, man, it can't be that bad. Life's got to have more to it than that. I'm sorry. Outrageous. All right. Anyway. So, in mid-2016, the brand split is re-implemented, and with that, they offered contracts to a range of names.
Including
some are very funny, including the Headbangers. They get brought back for a spot or two.
Bob, in mid-2016, was the wild card rule on the table yet?
Not yet. It's 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask.
I think Colito gets offered a deal. I think MVP gets offered a deal. I think a bunch of guys got offers.
In 2016?
Yeah, I think.
Wow.
I want to say Stevie Richards recently did a video saying that they reached out and then just never followed up and never offered him anything, which is beast. This is when Hawkins comes back. By all accounts, the money being offered to these fellows, and I'm not, Shelton, if you see this, hopefully you got paid handsomely. By all accounts, the money, because remember, there was no other bidders at this point in 2016, right? This is TNA is on pop. Ring of Honor ain't chasing WWE vet. They are offering guys.
And 2016 was
contracts.
That's right before New Japan got really hot, right?
2016 would be New Japan was hot in Japan, but in the States, it has a ways to go. Because before Okada Omega, which is the one that changes it big in the States, right?
That's crazy because my interpretation of New Japan being awesome was 2013 to 2015.
No, I think both those things can be true. We actually agree on that, but I think to Alex's point,
I see what you
hot, not meaning necessarily quality, but more of people talking
in the States, especially. Moreover, the kind of talent they were talking about, let's be honest, New Japan weren't offering Carly Colon a deal in 2016.
No.
So it was a weird time. They wanted cheap names to fill out the rosters. That's what they wanted. Shelton was the biggest name that was up for it and wanted to come back and do it. And they run a vignette for him on SmackDown, and then he gets injured. He tears his shoulder or something to that effect. And it's funny, dude. Like, this sounds ridiculous now. I remember reading that at the time that he was injured and being like, well, fuck, like, Shelton's probably done, right? He's 40 plus. He just tore his. It's like, fuck us, the AEW World Tag Team Champion. So he never actually
Wrestling for
came
90
back.
minutes on their pay-per-view in the stadium that night.
And he hadn't actually, he hadn't even came back and he got hurt. And then it kind of went quiet. He announced he was cleared at some point. Then there was another like 4 or 5 months. And then he just showed up in a backstage segment, I'm pretty sure, Bob, right? Which is become a Shelton Benjamin signature. He debuted in AEW the same way, just showed up backstage one day and they panned the camera to him. And of course, he was paired with Chad Gable because Chad had recently lost his tag team partner because Jason Jordan was actually Kurt Angle's son. And so they would be a tag team, a babyface tag team, who would then later turn heel in the build to the Usos match we're about to talk about. In truth, it's a team that never really gets going, does it? If we're being honest. In a fair world, in a just world, the first match of this act really should be a Cedric tag because that was really the run, wasn't it? The Hurt Business one. But we banned the Thunderdome. So for that reason, we did this. Now, what I will say is, while this match has its issues, one being the fact that the crowd is quiet enough, we may as well have done a Thunderdome match.
There'd actually be more noise in the Thunderdome.
Yes, 100%. There are interesting things about this match, though, that I do want to talk about. So we'll get into that as we go. This is January 28, 2018, the Royal Rumble. On second, wrestling to absolute silence, the SmackDown Tag Team titles. The Usos, we do a little pre-match promo, are in incredible shape here, it has to be said.
This is when they were full Samoan Briscoes, like their look and everything.
100%. Yeah, and the promo style, too. It was total Briscoe. They were good at it, so fair enough. You got to steal from the best, right?
They're believable,
Yeah, 100%. There is a lot to like here. It's a unique presentation. Bobby, what did you make of this 2 out of 3 falls, I should note, SmackDown Tag Title match?
Yeah, I thought it was quite great. I remember watching it and enjoying it quite a bit then. You know what you're getting out of the Usos at this point, and we've seen obviously a lot of Gable in the time since then, and Shelton is incredible too. So just it all worked. Really, I like kind of leading up to the first fall. They have that really almost 10 minutes, and the falls come kind of one after another. But there's a lot of good stuff in that early stretch. It's kind of like the first match where it's like, I like watching every combination of these guys wrestle. So it really worked. And a lot of good back and forth. Usos won the first fall with a BT trigger, which I was not expecting. And it's great, man. And then, the second fall kind of has a little bit of suspense to it where it's just out of nowhere. Shelton tags in, just gets rolled up, and that's that. And it was great. The crowd didn't really appreciate it, but I think, and I don't know how much I appreciated it in the moment really either, just besides liking all 4 guys, but I thought it was really well done, well worked match.
I think there's a lot to admire about the approach and the agenting of the match. I think it's genuinely really cool because, like you mentioned it. So basically, folks, the situation is it's a 2 out of 3 falls match, and they have like 12 minutes, 13 minutes, something like that. And I think the easy thing to do is to hurry a first fall, and then work from there. And instead, what they do is they, quote, subvert expectations, Bob. And they do like a full tag match that goes heavy on heat, a sudden fall, then do a second round of heat, basically, where, as Bob mentioned, the heels are chasing to tie it up and get caught. And so it's a sweep against the run of play. It's 2-0, even though they take the entire match. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't necessarily know if it worked or how good the actual results that were, but I did appreciate how distinct this was. So much so, Oracle, I remembered this being a sweep. I remembered the finish of this, and this was 7 years ago, and it was a time of stuff that I don't always remember. I don't know how good this is. I think it's very interesting, though, for whatever that's worth. What did you think, Oracle?
Yeah, as I was watching the match, I was like, don't the Usos win in like 2?
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty well worked match. It's just a shame the tag divisions were like. It's actually even more of a shame because the New Day Usos program happened just a few months earlier, and the crowd were really invested in that, and they just weren't invested in this at all. And honestly, part of that is the Shelton Gable team just wasn't pushed enough, or really, didn't. Neither guy were the most charismatic in terms of promos and stuff like that. So I mean, this was a pretty well worked match, and I thought they had a really, especially that first fall, they had a really strong match. Of course, ended with a double super kick or whatever. It was weird because it felt like they could have had a really good match. It felt like somewhere in there, the Usos and these two guys, Gable and Benjamin, probably had a great match in them. This wasn't it, although it was solid, and again, it was well worked. It was just the crowd and the sort of abruptness of that second fall. But in terms of Shelton, this is another example of him being a really good tag worker. We always quickly think of Charlie Haas first, and then also Lashley and Cedric, because he's been part of the Hurt Syndicate or whatever, for the last 5 years. But he was a very good tag wrestler in general. Always has been. And the Gable tag team was a very solid tag team.
It was. I mean, I agree with you. I think, unfortunately, the lack of heat, beyond it just being 2018 WWE, it is tied to the act never really clicks, right? I think.
Correct. And I don't think anybody bought that, like, Gable and Benjamin were gonna do anything, and that this match ending in 2 falls sort of confirmed that, right?
And they don't really do anything notable beyond
afterwards.
this either. No. Yeah, it's a shame. It feels like one of those teams that if you could just place them somewhere else in a different place.
It honestly felt like there was something there, and they just, because of the booking and the nature of the company at the time, it just wasn't meant to be.
I tend to agree, Alex. I'm really intrigued about your thoughts on this, because I don't know if you'd have seen this. Like, you probably watched the Rumble, but like, this doesn't feel like something you'd remember by any means.
I watched this pay-per-view live because it's, to me, that's one of the best Rumble matches ever. The men's Rumble on the show that Nakamura wins, and that's it's emblematic of what we're talking about. We've talked about 2018, 2019 WWF before, in that match we did on the Lexi episode, just abject silence that these people are wrestling to. It's not just that. We did, speaking of Gable, on our Bobby Roode episode, we did one of the FTR matches that it's just like, get here a fucking pin drop. And that Rumble match on this same show is fucking electric, man. The crowd's going nuts, but it's, again, kind of piggybacking off what Oracle said there. They had just so mind-fucked their crowd, their whole audience, into just like only believing X amount of guys mattered, and that like there's no reason to invest in any of this other shit. So yeah, the crowd's dead here. It's also during that time period where they're just fucking obsessed with stats, because they say like they're giving like percentages and numbers throughout this match. I'm like, shut the fuck up. It's the commentary on this, and we had Kevin Kelly earlier in the show. This might be the worst commentary job,
dude,
in the whole show.
When Tom Phillips explodes with "Paydirt," I fucking howled, and I have no idea why. It just popped me. Like, he put it over like it was like a brain buster, a pile driver, And
it's a shame, because honestly, I was fucking with this match, dude. I was like, the big chop block. There's that awesome spot where they get that first one, or like the fucking sleight of hand, and then I forget what juice goes down, but the limb work starts, and Gable and Shelton have some pretty substantial tag offense. This is not the Yeet Man, the way Jey Uso's doing these dives, man. He's throwing caution to the wind on those, and now he essentially runs, slowly climbs through the ropes, and then throws a double axe handle off the apron. It's a lot different guy we're dealing with these days. I cried a little bit when Chad Gable broke out a fucking tiger suplex to absolutely zero reaction. I was just like, come on, man. It's a lot of just kind of really, I don't want to say ingenious, but for the concept of the match, kind of ingenuitive things and ideas. And there's a really sick powerbomb at one point. Gable throws a capo kick at a certain point, and the crowd has no idea how to react to. And I really like the idea of the finish of the Shelton and Gable really start to get cooking, and then they lose it immediately, like just on a roll up. And you guys were talking about who the heels and the faces were, and you wouldn't be able to tell by the crowd dynamic because they don't really react to anything here. The Shelton and Gable hitting their finish on the floor was pretty sick. Whichever Uso took that, their head just fucking bounced off the floor.
Yeah.
So I'd like the idea behind this match. It's I'm sure this won't be the last time that we talk about a WWF match from 2018 or 2019 that is good in concept but executed to complete just apathy. But for our subject du jour, what I want to say about Shelton Benjamin is he appears to be on complete autopilot in this match, and his autopilot is, for the veteran status he had at that point in time, is that good that it comes across pretty seamless. And don't get it twisted. My closing thoughts on this aren't going to be that fucking Shelton Benjamin was, 80s Ric Flair or something like that. But it's clear with the acts we go through in this, by the time you hit this match, he knows so much what he's doing, who he is, as they say, and who he's going to be in the ring, that he's just able to pull that version of himself off effortlessly. So an interesting match for unfortunately some bad reasons, but I enjoyed it.
I think to that last point, beyond the creative and wrestling's obvious systematic, woes, one of Shelton's biggest challenges, I think it does come too easy for him sometimes, to be completely honest. I think what you just mentioned, dude, you can tell he's just kind of like, he's doing, like, he knows this is not really going anywhere, right? I think he's been in the business long enough to know that him and Gable aren't going to be part of the new Four Horsemen. He's kind of just out there wrestling, and as you said, it's so easy for him to just be good and be fine. Yeah. So I agree with that, and also this is probably not the right match to do it, and I think one day they'll get their own episode. I understand the frustrations with, singles Jey Uso and singles Jimmy Uso and all that stuff. Remember I mentioned earlier about overcorrecting? Feels like we had a lot of that with the Usos, doesn't it? I mean, man, they were a hell of a tag team. I'm sorry, I just got to say, they were a hell of a tag team.
I don't know about frustrations with Jimmy Uso right now. I was in Corpus Christi the other night, and those people thought Jesus came back to earth when he came down and whipped Carmelo Hayes' ass.
People love him, dude. And I just looked at it. When you mentioned about the dive, Alex?
Yeah.
Jey Uso has had 1,600 matches. Those dudes have had long careers, man. I think people, because they're now singles guys, I think people think they've just started their career, the other day. It's bizarre.
They've literally
they've had whole runs.
They've been in the WWF for 15 years, at least close to that. Yeah.
No, you're right. 15. Yeah.
Oh, so, 50, they debuted summer my. I remember they were in high school and they had Tamina as their manager. It was 2010, I think it was. June of 2010. May 2010.
Ibu and I have talked about this a lot. Sorry, Alex, what was you going to say, mate?
Is Tamina still employed?
So, I don't really know, but she's on the roster page, but I'm pretty sure she's retired. I don't know.
One of my all-time favorite tweets from a guy named Justin. He once said that Tamina having this long of a run in the WWF is the most offensive thing the WWF has ever done to protect the Snuka family.
So anyway, Ibu and I have talked about this a lot, probably not on the air as much. So he did a post about Trick Williams and saying, we all think Trick's awesome. He looks great. He's got personality. Right?
Just to circle back, he got chokeslammed to end NXT. Yeah,
well, of course. Willie's awesome. And he was saying, he just needs to get his in-ring to a certain point and he'll be golden. And someone was like, well, Jey Uso's top guy. And it's like, guys, here's the deal. I know you don't like his matches. I can promise you there is a big difference between getting to work and seeing Jey Uso's name on the board next to yours and Trick Williams. Whether you like Jay's matches or not, he has forgotten more about pro wrestling than someone like Trick would know, because Trick's brand new, right? We have to do a better. You can dislike guys' work, but there's a difference between a guy's offense not looking great, which Jay's doesn't. Let's be honest, Jay's offense isn't good.
Look,
but Jey Uso knows how to go out there and have a wrestling match. You get what I'm saying here? There's a difference between these things.
Yeah, and this is one of those things of I'm not comparing these two people, so no one fucking try to kill me. But these people that talk about this, like, never have watched like Dusty Rhodes have a TV match. Like, you know what I mean? Like these guys that do they settle into a spot where they have their things that they hit on TV so people go, ooh, yeah. There was this guy named Steve Austin who did pretty well for himself, who, yes, had a few of the greatest matches of all time, but like there's all those stories of like his house show matches were just him coming out and he would just hit stunners and tell people to keep getting up and he would just hit like a stunner over him again. So
dude,
I can actually, if you'll allow me, Joe, I can
pull
it back in. This is kind of one of the issues with who we're talking about, of Shelton Benjamin being decreed the most underrated wrestler of all time. You know, well, what is your definition for that? You know, like what he won most underutilized or underrated in the Observer, like legitimately like 5 or 6 years in a row, right? Like he won it over and over again. So it's the idea of, well, why? What does that mean to you? Like if, and especially right now in this culture of wrestling fandom that we have, if Shelton Benjamin was pushed as a main eventer right now and went out and had all these work rate matches that these people fucking salivate over, then people would figure out a way to get tired of that. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Unless you're Okada and you just convince people you're good, having never seen any of your matches, then you're fucking golden, man. God tier.
Yeah, the point of all of that, I think, was that one day Grin Grappler the Usos will be really interesting, I think, and it'll be fun.
Great tag team. But two great wrestlers, obviously.
Yes. And it is possible to go, man, they took a lot of the Briscoe stuff, man, they took a lot of the Buck stuff and still go, they're still a really good team. You know what I'm saying? So you're allowed to do it. You can do both of those things, I promise.
Yeah, I mean, like FTR, you know, they basically just, look,
tell you.
Look at this.
Right.
The only thing that would make FTR better is if fucking Dax had the long Tom Pritchard hair and he came out doing this shit like that.
Okay, I always appreciated when Cash would get kind of crazy with the mullet, you know?
Yeah,
get kind of wild with it. Added a lot to the presentation. God, Tom Pritchard was really fucking good, man. Mm-hmm. He was really good.
Dude, Heavenly Bodies were one of those. Dude, when I was a little kid, like that was the whole thing. I was like, they're not heavenly, and now I watch it back. I'm like, those two dudes acting like they're fucking, Brad Pitt. That shit's hilarious. That's what makes wrestling great.
You know their spot? I always think of it as their spot. It probably isn't theirs, but the spot where like Jimmy will do he'll slide underneath and Tom will hook the guy for the bulldog. They do it to the Steiners at SummerSlam. The FTR did that on Collision, and I lost my shit. I was like, the Heavenly Bodies. Let's fucking go. They were a great team. Anyway.
Last thing on the wrestlers stealing things
yes.
From each other, that I have to always give a shot to Kevin Nash. It's been scrubbed from the internet, but he did there was this one unedited sit down he did when he was mentoring Jay Lethal. It was this 10-minute thing they posted on TNA's YouTube page where it's just they're just riffing back and forth, and there's multiple parts in it where they both break, but they just kept it in and posted the whole thing unedited. But there's a part where he's asking him, he's like, why do you want me to do this Macho Man thing? People are gonna know I'm stealing from him. It's like everyone steals from somebody. He's like, Flair did Buddy Rogers, Liger. 95% of my offense is Jushin Liger. I just wasn't going to wear the mask, I wasn't going to cover this face up. So Kevin Nash wins again is the moral.
Shit, that's awesome. I think you just got called Alexa in the chat, which is so money. So money. Pretty sure that's what happened.
Shut up. Fight me.
Did you actually say this story though? Because this would pop you. Did you say this, Alex? This Raquel?
No.
So an interviewer was
I love Raquel. Fuck it.
An interviewer told Raquel that Big Kev said that she doesn't work big enough. She doesn't work like a monster,
Uh-huh.
And Raquel was told this and just goes, well, if Big Kev's saying that, then I need to listen to that and implement that in my game. Kev knows what he's talking about. He was one of the coolest big men ever. And then, so this was a funny quote. Then Oracle and I are watching Evolution. Raquel's out there like she's in the fucking Champions Carnival. She's throwing people around. How good was she in that match, Oracle? Legit.
It was good. She actually actually was in the right place, was doing stuff that would, she
Yeah.
could actually do. Like it.
Yeah.
He's got the side knees in the deal, the fucking flipper
Yeah.
punch,
Yeah.
sidewalk slam.
So the Gable team comes to a
So
halt,
about
and now
Danny
it's
Garcia.
yeah, not yet. Bobby, it's time. The gimmick in which Shelton Benjamin would stand and stare without a single word being spoken. Explain.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just explained it. They would just do that, and they didn't really have anything for him. It didn't seem so. He would just kind of do that, and eventually, I think ended up back in the U.S. title picture. But yeah, it was pretty bad for a while. Like, I don't like when Jericho came back. Like, he did the thing where he didn't talk, and that was one thing. Like, that's a classic heel thing. But Shelton would just stare and not do anything. It was off-putting.
He would stare. They had no idea where it was going, as my understanding. They just said this would be a funny thing to do.
You could tell
This
it
was
wasn't
on
very
WWF
fun,
television.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There'd be a pre-tape, and it'd be Shelton standing there with like a pre-tape backdrop behind him. And was the interviewer saying stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Or the interviewer was saying stuff, and he would just stare. And they'd keep talking, and it would just cut. It was bizarre. He's in the Rumble in 2020.
Yes.
And he recently told the story behind this. Bob, did you see this by any chance?
I did not.
So he does the thing with Brock, right? Where him and Brock hug, and then Brock flings him out. So I guess at one point there was a pitch for them to like actually work together and be in it together for a little bit. I think was the idea he said.
Oh yes, I did hear about that. Yes.
Yes. And then Vince changed it, and Vince apparently gave him like an insane raise or a new contract because he was like, "That's my guy. He knows what he's doing." And all he does is come out and hugs Brock and gets eliminated. That's all he does.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
God, that fucking match rules.
It does.
It's incredible.
It's awesome.
It's probably well, no, I mean he's had the bloodlines. That's one of Paul Lee's great plays. I think that's so brilliant the way that he positions Drew in that match. It's fucking masterful. Shane McMahon agent a lot of that apparently, whatever that means. I presume he just sort of stood there while Paul explained what was going to happen.
I'm pretty sure his face was just down in a newspaper the whole time, but
Yeah.
Pouring and sweating profusely. Someone needs to check his blood pressure.
And then I come out and win. Yeah, that's it. Shane McMahon versus Shelton Benjamin. That could have been a fun.
That would have been something.
Yeah,
that would have been something. So honestly, when I was thinking about this earlier, how crazy is it Shelton doesn't get released in the fucking 2020 releases? Like,
yeah,
because obviously he does the syndicate run, the Hurt Business run, but before that he's doing nothing, Bob, right?
Yeah. No, it's like you said, like the Royal Rumble, it was such a surprise that he was in it because of how little he'd been doing. And like, yeah, it made sense with Brock, but like, yeah, there were a handful of releases that they did where it was surprising that he was not involved. And then, the Hurt Business stuff took off and that got him a lot more time. But yeah, it was crazy for a while.
Obviously, in the grand scheme of the world, when people reflect upon the coronavirus, I don't think they're quickly going to go change wrestling a lot. I reckon that will probably be you'll probably get a few books deep before you really consider its ramifications on wrestling. But for the sake of this conversation, I do think people don't fully grasp that Vince was genuinely going to have people just under contract forever, dude. You're like the late 2010s were fucking insane. Tyler Breeze got like a lucrative contract. He was never on TV. It was nuts.
It's crazy. Everyone got 5-year deals.
Everyone. And I'm assuming that obviously he was going to get, rightly ousted eventually. But it was bonkers. And it changed in an instant as soon as people actually needed fucking work, But anyway, Shelton survived. He eventually makes his way into the Hurt Business. And the Hurt Business is fucking awesome. There has been an attempt to suggest otherwise. If you watched 2020-21 WWE, you will know this was like one of the very few bright spots as they did these shows from empty buildings. There is a TV in which they end Raw Underground. They hijack Raw Underground, and they look like the coolest guys in the world, dude. The suits, the presentation, MVP's promos, it completely saved Shelton. It was actually, watching it was surreal to see Shelton in a big spot after where he was at before this. Like, it was whoa. Lashley got rolling as the Almighty. He felt like the baddest man on the planet. Like, it was an incredible act, Oracle. I'm not overstating this, right? That thing was really cool. Really, really cool, Oracle, correct?
Yes. That shit was like the one thing I wanted to watch on those nothing shows that were just dreary as shit to watch. That Raw Underground segment was like the point where I was like, okay, these are like the coolest dudes in wrestling. And it honestly felt that way for a little bit. And they had the tag feud, I think, with like Profits and were there match? Didn't they have like a really good match with the Street Profits?
I believe so, and they went with New Day too. I think, yeah.
New Day, yeah.
There's good stuff that we're never going to revisit that stuff.
No, sadly, because it's just
right. But it was fucking cool. Yeah, it was really cool. Bobby is a big Shelton fan. It must have been pretty cool to see him back in the ball game, right?
It was, yeah, it was awesome. Like, it was cool enough just seeing him show up at the Rumble because I was there, but then to get like that whole kind of run, carrying it through the Thunderdome, and then even after the Thunderdome to an extent, it was great.
It was indeed, unfortunately, because we wasn't allowed anything of, positive endeavor whatsoever. It is like just suddenly ended, just without any kind of rhyme or reason. Vince just decides he doesn't want it to exist anymore. And it really is it for the run, and it for sure. Really, like, he sticks around for a while longer.
Yeah, he's on main event quite a bit, which
some
of that's good. He's happy to just be out there, it seems like, right. And
yeah, he and Cedric do reunite, but it's given like no creative juice at all. It's kind of a. I remember when he hit 20 years, Bob. Do you remember that they did that celebration of him on the bump? And it was cute, but there was also a part you kind of going, but I mean, he probably could be doing something on TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Nonetheless,
the bump.
Is he ultimately in the releases with Dolph? Is he in that set of releases? Probably around there, right?
Yeah.
2023 after Mania 39, right?
Yeah, because then he has his indie run where he never loses, and then he's in AEW soon.
Where he never loses, beast. He did a trip to the UK and did like a DQ finish. Fucking god tier.
That's awesome.
And I think we can now safely say, because all involved has pretty much spoken on it, the lads had a pretty clear vision of where they were going. And I apologize, Bob, if I'm getting you in hot water. Bob O'Neill told me that Bobby Lashley was going to be in AEW like 3 years before he was there.
Yeah.
Legitimately 3 years right? Would you say 2 years, Bob?
No, I think 2 years. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was pretty immediate. Yeah.
Bob O'Neill informed me of this. It was very funny, and I only tell you this publicly because MVP legitimately said in an interview the other day, I said to Bobby, "You should not resign. We should leave." And he said that was like a year and plus fuzz, before. So, yeah, they knew what they were going to do. I think it's pretty obvious, and they've said as much. And if Bob O'Neill clued us in, I reckon their minds were made up, is my point here. Not to say, I mean, Bob's pretty connected on the Shelton Benjamin camp, so I want to be clear. But, so anyway, the Syndicate MVP comes in, does that awesome fucking deal with Prince Nana at Arthur Ashe, where he comes across like the coolest guy in wrestling again. And then a few weeks after that, Shelton appears in the aforementioned backstage segment. He got a great reaction. And me, being the arsehole that I am, was kind of like, all right, guys. The Sarah looks in the ring. And then he wrestles Leo Rush in a TV match and beats the fuck out of Leo Rush. Like, hits him with one of the most vicious super kicks this side of the SWAT team. Like, oh my God, he killed it. You remember how much that was a great Leo performance too. And we all kind of went, hold on. And I'm pretty sure the scuttlebar at the time was that he was so good in those first couple matches that Tony like added him to the C2. Like haphazardly went, fuck it, he's in the Continental Classic. And so that is where we're about to pick up. Before we get to that, actually, it is worth noting that he does that. They do that like short build to him and Swerve that was really well done. Do you remember this, Oracle?
Yes, I do, actually. Mm-hmm.
They made it seem like a really big match, didn't they? Like overnight. Yeah. It was really well done. Yeah. And then obviously Bobby came in. So he enters the Continental Classic, and that takes us to December 21st, 2024. AEW Collision, the holiday edition of this telecast. One of his last matches in the tournament.
Hammerstein Ballroom.
Hammerstein Ballroom, we would be. This is just downstairs from the earlier match, right? Is the way it works? I'm pretty sure this is, I'm pretty sure. Because I think Manhattan, you go an elevator, right? I think.
Yes.
For some reason, I thought you were going to track where we were in proximity to the GCW show there. But I do need to say, fuck modern architecture, man. And this idea of repainting everything like a Chipotle to make it look minimalist. Like, this place looks like shit now. It used to be one of the coolest looking venues in wrestling, and now just, fucking muted tones and shit.
You're right, but on the bright side, this is Christmas. This is Collision. Tony Schiavone is talking to me about wrestling.
This is true.
Shelton Benjamin is here. He is wrestling late night Grin legend Daniel Garcia, who is the TNT champion at this time. A memorable reign, my ad. A memorable reign. Many matches that we recall.
Also got to be
for years to come.
Has to be the Grin Grappler debut of Gargano ref.
No comment on that. Gargano gets another reference for no apparent reason. Respect. And this is a match that I like a lot. I sense our panel may be divided. Time will tell. With that in mind, Contrarian Alex, take it away.
Joe's asked a lot of me in my life, but this is I'm just kidding. Dude, Shelton wrestling like Brock Lesnar here is just like, all right, like
it's awesome.
Yeah,
it is, but it's also because fucking Twig Boy here, it looks like he's fucking 125 soaking wet. So it's not. He can't even keep his knee pads on, man.
That's the style, bro. It's the style.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
I appreciate Shelton's performance in this. He's really aggressive. To Danny Garcia's credit, he gets thrown through the ropes and just fucking flops like a dead fish on him. It looks like it hurt like shit. So good on him for that. Shelton hits some fucking sweet suplexes, including like a belly to belly or something on the floor that looks like it hurt like shit. So all of my jokes aside, Garcia kind of took an ass whipping in this match. And I'm trying not to pick on Aubrey here. She does mess up a finish at one point, which she should have just called as the finish of the match, but it is what it is.
She should have done the fucking red shoes, the old shit, the overhand. She should have done that. Look it.
Yeah. Look, I have more than my fun with Aubrey Gargano ref, but I should call out that
Gargano ref.
I did not realize until I watched it back that she was the ref in the Tony Mercedes match, which I fucking loved that match. And to her credit, there's no point in it that I could see when I was there that she like did her shit. So that I'll be complimentary of her now after I just said a bunch of mean, disparaging things. As far as this match goes, it shows an interesting evolution of Shelton. Daniel Garcia is not my favorite wrestler by any stretch. This is not, some unheralded TV classic. The way look, I'll give it this. The crowd in this match is way more receptive than the one in that tag match. Whether I think that's from a performative nature or not, that doesn't matter. It makes for a better viewing experience just sitting down and watching it. So that part is a positive also. And yeah, the evolution of Shelton here, I'm glad Joe did call it out because I was going to feel like a dickhead for saying it, but Shelton, it's almost like laughable that Shelton started his career in a role that would be considered like a light heavyweight, and now he's like a fucking monster. Mm-hmm. And it's not like he's fucking ballooned up. He's stayed basically the same shape his entire career. It's just the fellas that are getting into wrestling and the ways they're choosing to present themselves on TV is a lot different. So for him, that provides an avenue of change, and that can just be being a fucking mauler and ass kicker and throwing this dude around like he's nothing, like a feather. He's just like lifting him and tossing him all around and stuff. So whatever path we take to get there is irrelevant, because today we're talking about Shelton Benjamin. And so it's an interesting evolution to see from him as a performer. I do not like the roll-up finish on Shelton here, but again, that is here nor there. It's fun. Watching these sequentially, it makes for a really entertaining and interesting viewing experience in the last match.
So, all jokes aside, for anyone who's not aware, the Daniel Garcia thing has been a running Contrarian Alex and I thing for about 3 years now, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe?
something like that. Yeah.
I think Dan has a lot of this frailties in his game. Here's my genuine assessment, and this is why I like this match. I think Garcia is blessed with self-awareness, and what you described, I don't think this match ever betrays what you described. At no point in this match, tell me if I'm wrong because I may have missed it. Does Dan feel like he's trying to wrestle Shelton as though they're equals physically? And I appreciate that. I appreciate this match is wrestled through the lens of Garcia's an underdog and he's scrappy.
Yes.
And I appreciate that. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and he invokes some Ricky Morton style shit here that I really liked, where he gets on the ropes and he's like reaching out to the crowd and stuff. The whole thing, the Daniel Garcia bit is, this motherfucker, in some of his early iterations, was trying to work like Minoru Suzuki, and I was like, all right, calm the fuck down, dude. And so that is kind of where some of my annoyance began with him. But to your point exactly, that's none of this in this. Even when he gets to I guess the sharpshooter is one of his big spots, and he sets it up just out of counter. And yeah, I might not like the finish, but it's not like he fucking F5s him or something.
Right,
Yeah. And so, yes, I do appreciate that aspect of this. And like I said, there's some things he does here where I was like, all right, the guy at the end of Rudy just clapping and giving the thumbs up. So, yeah.
The reason I brought that up was because it's ironic. What you described as a positive progression has been seen as the opposite for other people. So a lot of people miss when Danny was presenting what you just mentioned, the sort of Suzuki-esque, grappler guy. And I think there's a middle ground to be found, but he kind of now is a classical babyface. So he does that spot in a lot of his matches. I know Matt D loves it. Shout out Matt D, where he grabs the fans' hands and pulls himself up and he's reaching to the people and all that stuff. Oracle, he's been a really interesting wrestler to follow as a TV wrestler because he's very different now to 3 years ago. Some people are a lot less bullish. Others are more keen than ever on him as a traditional babyface. This match captures him as the latter. What did you make of the match and kind of the dynamic these two have with almost monster versus underdog here?
Once again, I'm gonna bring it up. This is the version of Shelton I like a lot, and of course when he's as a heel, he's working more of he works differently with Taker than he does with Marufuji than he does with Danny Garcia. I think he has more range. I think he's more dynamic as a heel wrestler, and I think it shows here. And he works differently in the tag match with when he's teaming with Haas against Ray and Kidman. He is really, really great in this. Shelton is, and for what it's worth, I agree that Garcia is better as a underdog babyface. So I think both their strengths are kind of shown here. Mm-hmm. This was one of the better matches of the C2. I thought the C2 was good this past year. I thought the 2023 C2 was awesome.
Blew it away.
Yeah, it was this past year's was solid, but not as good. Mm-hmm. And this was one of the top 2 or 3 matches of the whole tournament. This match is excellent. And yeah, Shelton just tosses him, bullies him around. Garcia does the Ricky Morton type selling as Alex pointed out. I don't love the roll up finish either, but just in terms of just the stylistic comparisons and just kind of this match highlighting honestly how good Shelton is as a heel in the ring. Is I think this was a good choice just to show how varied he is as a bad guy in the ring.
And I think he does a good job too of like he takes a lot of the match, but I also think when it's time for Danny to fire up, he gives him just enough, right? He's really, I think it's a really polished performance from a veteran, which is what you want to see at this point. I mean, Shelton's 50 now, believe it or not, he's 50 years old.
Jesus Christ.
It's outrageous, but you see that, you know, that polish and the experience of the man and what he can bring to the table in that role. Bobby, what did you make? Did you see this at the time, and what did you make of it here? Okay, what did you make on this watch, mate?
It was great. You know, I'm with you guys. You know, Shelton kind of displaying the physicality and just kind of throwing Daniel Garcia around ruled. Yeah, a lot to like about the match. The roll-up finish kind of, I guess, is what it is with how it was laid out. Like, you know, Shelton had the upper hand for most of the time, so whatever. Like, if you weren't going to have him win, then you have to have him lose kind of in that way. But, yeah, I liked it overall, and then just kind of like a big picture thing. I thought his entire kind of Continental Classic run was very good. Like, this was the high point, but I watched most of, I think, all those matches at this point. Yeah, it was great. He really stood out.
The Fletcher one is good because he works babyface in that. Yeah. And the people, like, just really get with him and get mad when he gets screwed on the finish. In the same vein, one of the things that really impressed me about this match, the crowd isn't, they're not exactly raucous at the first belt here, fellas, to be honest. But by the end, they do get them, don't they? Like Garcia's selling and Shelton's just physicality. They kind of will them on board. This was December. Since then, Shelton and Lashley have formed a team. You know, as part of the Syndicate, they've actually been a team, which was never really a thing before. No. Oracle, you were in attendance, unless I'm mistaken, when they won the titles from Private Party, and by the looks of it, sent the lads out the territory too in doing so. I mean, we've seen the lads since, bless them. So that was a fun match. Yeah, I haven't the wrestled since. Oracle, thoughts on, because I think it's sort of dampened since. The initial Shelton and Bobby team where they were like the Road Warriors was fucking awesome. It's been a little bit, I don't know, their opponents have been, you know, the best suited to that, but they were initially kicking ass, weren't they?
Oh yeah, like that match, like they had, other than the Kenny and Ospreay thing that set up the you know, the brawl, that set up the Australia match. That was the hottest the crowd was all night. Was the Hurt Syndicate just beating the shit out of Private Party.
Yeah,
like they were super fun. Work that way more, but they're still booked as heels. I think they should be faces, but as ass kicking baby faces, basically, you know, basically like the Road Warriors.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to have enough heels to work with. Although there was a tease there with FTR, maybe we'll get something on. Maybe
that's the play, right?
Maybe we'll get FTR and Hurt Syndicate in London, perhaps.
Maybe right? So. I just, you know,
I mean, they're still going to do FTR and Cope and Christian,
right? But that's all. Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, the Syndicate as baby faces and FTR trying to be the kind of midnights their Road Warriors feels like the play, to be honest. Contrarian Alex is shaking his head furiously at us here. Contrarian Alex, you okay?
I'm still mad about that match at All In.
Oh yeah,
Lasher
still going on. You can don't miss the finish. Quickly go back to the stadium.
You should have fucking killed those 4 white boys, dude, and just I'm sorry, 3 white boys. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't offended by that. I was offended about the Christian Cage slander. Hang on a second.
Dude, all right, that could have been fucking on Dynamite easily. That should have.
It speaks so much to how warped my brain is that when you switched it to 3 white boys, I assumed you were excluding Christian, and I realized Kevin Knight was in the
match. Yeah, dude, I was literally like, I was angry and booing and yelling when fucking Speedball Bailey was getting offense on them in the match. I was so mad.
Meanwhile, on the Grin along, all we were saying was, "Oh my god, Alex is watching this."
Yeah.
That's all we kept saying. It was the thing that I found frustrating about the match is I thought we had like real bursts of quality, but it was just really fucking long. Man. It was 20 minutes long. It was madness.
Again, if those battle royals had, or I'm sorry, what are they?
Casino gauntlets. They're casino gauntlets.
if those fucking pointless pieces of Drek were eliminated from the show, that match might have gotten over a little bit better. I pulled this up because I was curious. Dave gave that 4 stars. That dead, lifeless match, he gave 4 stars. And Shelton, to Shelton and Bobby's credit, they're trying like all the shit they can fucking do in that. They're throwing these dudes around and whatnot. And yeah, it was. All that being said, Lasher and Shelton against FTR could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so, who knows? Maybe the 8 hours of my life, will be worth it in some capacity.
Bob, can you believe this guy doesn't know it's the Casino Gauntlet?
Did you know that show was longer than WrestleMania 35, Alex?
The funny part, like I went with like a fucking menagerie of friends, and we had like almost a whole row to ourselves. And the whole deal was we wanted to be there for the pre-show because I had to see Big Boom AJ and Big Justice. Yeah. And so like, dude, they were fucking furious that we were there for the 2-hour pre-show. They're like, we sat through all this fucking shit, and Athena's coming out now. Yeah,
that unnecessary. I'll say this though. Main event, they ended with a fucking flourish. You gotta say that was probably Moxley's magnum opus pulling that off because they were 8 hours deep. All my jokes aside, like Tony and Mercedes fucking ruled. Like I don't know if I've enjoyed another match that much this year off the top of my head. And then yes, the main event was like their Cody Roman, and it was all except it had fucking sick blood and all this crazy shit that happened in it. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. And the entrances that the big tag match got was so fucking cool. That's the frustrating part about it. Like there was all this fantastic shit on the show and then a bunch of stuff that didn't need to be there. But in all that, Shelton Benjamin was there. And Shelton Benjamin, organically, not being on any of these like fake Starrcade shows or anything like that. Shelton Benjamin worked WrestleMania. He worked Final Battle. He worked Wrestle Kingdom, and he worked All In. So Shelton Benjamin, he's not quite in that Jeff Jarrett air of working all of them, but he's up there in terms of really significant shows for promotions he has worked. There you go. I think AEW will implement like a Oracle. That message board we get to do a quiz to get in.
Oh yeah, Wrestling KO. Yeah,
you got to implement. You got to have these guys. You got to ask them, what is the match where the guys come out at random timed intervals? You got to make sure the real fans are in the building. That's all I'm saying. But yes, that is a cool fact.
I tried to bring it back around for you, Joe, because otherwise I was just going to launch in.
I decided I was doing that bit about 3 minutes ago. I was not moving on, but I will now. I just can't believe he's not. I'm telling you, man, Shelton is a Hogan TNA guy. It felt inevitable, but Cornette saved him from that. So there you go.
So who that would have made like the big the thing that Hogan's TNA was good at, of making the TNA old fans hate these guys they would have liked in a different scenario. They would bring fucking Shelton in and he would beat AJ for the title on the first show, and people would be like, what the fuck? And we got the Benjamin dude, man.
And with that in mind, yes, he's become an AEW World Tag Team Champion, but the real highlight of Shelton's 2025 was when, as a guy who has never said a bad word about anyone publicly, he told Hulk Hogan to go fuck himself on Twitter.
Amazing.
Probably the most easygoing guy in terms of like a public figure in wrestling. And Hulk said Benjamin Shelton twice. He was just like, just shut the fuck up, dude. We have no rapport whatsoever. Go away. That's
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. So yeah, the Guns tag is fun. With him, and that match is fun. The Leo Rush match we mentioned, the Kyle Fletcher match we mentioned. There's a singles match with Daniel Bryan that's decent. It isn't. It's just very short and isn't really. The crowds just didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's just the crowds didn't really see Shelton as an important
thing. AJ
thing.
had a singles match that I have no memory of that I saw earlier when I was scrolling through his cage match from like the fall of 18, but I assume it's not that good or not that memorable.
I think Shelton, the crowds didn't see him as a big deal when he came back, and the booking didn't really change their opinion. So yeah, I mean that's it. Any other matches to call out, Bobby, from this last 10 years almost of Shelton's career?
No, I don't really think so. He faced Charlie Dempsey at the main event I was at. That was a lot of fun. If you want to go back and watch that from March 2023.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember you talking about that. Tremendous stuff. Right, we'll just start taking it home here with some big picture talk. The legacy of Shelton Benjamin. Any final thoughts? We've talked a lot about Shelton Benjamin.
He was in Legacy?
The legacy of Shelton Benjamin, the Oracle of Wrestling. Any closing thoughts on the career of Shelton Benjamin, which is still underway, of course, still going. Any closing thoughts?
Honestly, just basically to reiterate what I've been saying several times is that I think he's someone who probably could have gotten away with a world title run, right, in the early 2010s. I think he was legitimate enough, good enough in the ring. I mean, he's, better than Jack Swagger is. I think I do think he's a better worker as a heel than he is as a face. I think just in the small sample size that we have, I think he shows a lot of range as a heel. I think there are some eras of his career, like the Gold Standard era, that are probably underrated, to be honest.
Yeah. And some eras that maybe are overrated. Right?
And then reflecting back on some of those other stuff during that era, I kind of want to revisit a handful of those matches and see like how good he was, because it seems like he was quite good during that period. I never really saw him as a what if guy in terms of like what if he was a main eventer or based on the WN awards and whatnot. I always kind of thought he had a ceiling, at least as a baby face, or at least in recent years. Upon reflection, I feel like he probably had a ceiling as a baby face, because I just don't think he was that dynamic of in the ring as a babyface, as a seller, I don't think he's dramatic enough with his emoting to be a great babyface. But I do wish that he was taken a little bit more seriously for large chunks of his career. I wish that his strengths were highlighted a little bit better, a little bit more. But yeah, I think overall he's one of those. How like certain eras in the Fed and WCW or wherever, any major wrestling company has like people you identify with from the main event, the mid card to the tag scene, and Shelton's one of those mid carders that you identify with his aggression. He's in the Carlitos and Morrisons and Chris Masters and MVPs and whatnot, and he's somebody that will always stand out from that era, and he was certainly a highlight from that period, and he's still good today, even at 50 years old, and in some ways he's more polished than ever in some ways. So he looks like he's got a few more years left.
Yeah, I agree. The what if thing's interesting. I don't think there's part of it more than the championships and stuff. I think there are eras and styles of promotions that would have unlocked things in him that we were never going to see in WWE. And I think you see a glimpse of it in that Noah match, right? Or a glimpse of it elsewhere in AEW even. Like, he would be an interesting wrestler to throw into different scenarios through history, I think, is an interesting. I agree with you that there was a ceiling. What I do believe, though, I sometimes think, what if, and this is a hilarious way to promote our upcoming Grin Infinite Possibilities series, which is all about that. But when it comes to assessing a wrestler's career, I do think sometimes what if can be a real, could be a dangerous game and a slippery slope, I think, sometimes, because the reality is you can talk what if all day long. Shelton Benjamin is wrestling in a major role on TV 25 years after signing with the WWF. Like, you can do what if so much you forget that he has had like an incredible career.
Yeah.
He has the respect of the entire industry, and moreover, the wrestling fan every wrestling fan likes Shelton. Every wrestling fan wishes Shelton got more. Like, I don't know, man. there are guys who have won more titles that are nowhere near as like content with their career, I feel, as Shelton is, or frankly, nowhere near as popular or beloved as Shelton is among wrestling. People like Shelton, like sometimes I think it's a real issue we have. He had a great career. Alex, final thoughts on Shelton Benjamin?
Yeah, he had a great career. Everything Oracle said, I'm like in line with. He's not someone that I've ever found myself wondering like what could have been. And not for Claudio to catch any strays here, but I think that's kind of I realized that when watching that tag match earlier of like these guys are in very similar situations. They've been consistent and they've had bouts of being really fucking good and other bouts where it's kind of like, because Claudio is that too. Everyone has said for 15 years, oh, he's so underrated. And it's like, well, that doesn't apply when everyone talks about how good he is. So it's Shelton Benjamin is, I think back to our Paul London episode now. That's why we do this, to celebrate dudes like this. But Shelton's legacy is a bit more complicated than Paul London's. I think it's a bit, almost a bit opposite, and it's interesting that way. Of at times, like Joe, you called out from the very beginning of this episode, I think Shelton Benjamin has been kind of overrated in certain parts of his career. But there's segments of it where it's like, holy shit, this dude's fantastic. And also, in our last act, specifically that tag match we talked about, when you can coast as a pro wrestler and one, look that good, and two, like perform that good, that's some rarefied air, man. So will his legacy be debated forever in terms of like what he could have been or what he should have been? Probably. But I think the four of us can agree he was a fucking hell of a hand who's still at 50 years of age and looks the same as he did 25 years ago when he started. He's got a lot of at least a considerable amount of gas left in the tank, but he's a guy that if you really want to split hairs, yes, has had a spotty up and down performance-wise career. But when he's been fucking on. And I think he's someone that was clearly valuable to the WWF. They kept him around for as long as they did. Yeah. I think it's, again, not to get too much into Vince talk, but I think he got into that category of people that Vince felt some level of loyalty to, of like keeping him around for, as long as he could, I guess. And so he's a very interesting figure and almost in some ways a central figure of like the undercurrent of wrestling of the 21st century. So I'm glad we chose him as our subject here, and hopefully Bob will stop swearing at us in the DMs now, about, not giving him what he wants. A good wrestler and someone who is worthy of the praise they're given for what they've accomplished and what they're capable of as a wrestler. But also, I think it's also fair to say that he's not above reproach. Yeah,
I would agree. There is a, you guys know I'm not a big football or soccer fan, I guess, so in the StreamYard. There's a bit on football Twitter where they say streets won't forget about like a brand of player that wasn't like they weren't like a top tier player, but if you watched football that time, full well their entire game, and you have a sentimental fear. Shelton Benjamin, he doesn't quite fit because he's been around for a quarter of a century now, but he does feel like that. Like if you watched Ruthless Aggression WWE, you probably have a soft spot for Shelton Benjamin, right? Streets will never forget Shelton Benjamin and doing fucking stuff in Money in the Bank ladder matches. So that came to mind. Yeah.
Me, Oracle, and Bob could be here till 4 a.m. talking about American football players like that. Neil Rackers was a kicker who's always my streets won't forget. Neil Rackers.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Bobby, take us home, mate. Closing thoughts on one of your all-time favorites. Again, maybe your all-time favorite. I don't know. Shelton Benjamin, go for it.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think there's been a lot of underrated, overrated talk, and I think it kind of all evened out in the end. Like, you look at the career he's had, would it really be aided, how we talk about him now if he was world heavyweight champion, twice 15 years ago? I don't think so. Like, I think he managed to make the best of everything he had. The tag titles, the U.S. title, the Intercontinental title, just all that. And he's still going now. He's got another few years left, it seems. He looks great now. And, sometimes it just kind of is what it is. There's always going to be he could have had the title instead of this guy. They put it on Great Khali a couple times, put it on Edge, 8 times in 6 months or whatever. Yeah, you could have went with him one of those times, but it turned out pretty good for everyone involved, I think.
Yeah.
And that's good.
It's something I got frustrated with when Samoa Joe appeared to be retired and his whole career became about why didn't Vince put the world title on it? It's can't you just talk about the stuff he did in his career? That's obviously lessened, thankfully. And hopefully the same happens for Shelton because he's having this run now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll be real, I honestly think Shelton's going to have a very healthy AEW run beyond this tag title thing. I think he's going to be fine because I think Shelton has got a good. I think Shelton's approach mentally to this run is infinitely better than his approach to the mid 2010s, non WWE stuff. I don't know, man. He seems motivated and excited to be there, and I think he appreciates this last run and a chance to be in front of the people, right? So, cool stuff. I'm glad we got to do this at all, but I'm glad we got to do it at a point where it's he's back in the game and it feels like he's closing this thing out in style and with a lot of dignity and grace. So, major respect to Shelton Benjamin, who I think, again, is one of the more beloved guys from his era, no question. Okay. All right, fellas, we ready to look ahead to August? Grin Grappler?
Let's go.
Okay. So, I feel, personally, it's time for a tag team edition. Now, let me be clear. There are some singles options in front of us here, but I think it is time for a tag team edition, so I do have some clear options in that department. 2 birthdays in August are Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. Now, here's the thing. The New Day would be an interesting episode because you could do single stuff for each of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could equally argue, though, Kofi Kingston at this point certainly has the catalog to just have his own grappler. I mean, most certainly. I mean, Kofi Kingston's been on their TV for, I believe, now 85 years or so. And along the way, we could do 6 Ziggler matches if you want, Alex.
Yeah.
So it's up to you.
My mind
Kofi
immediately
Kingston
went to a Survivor Series match that the New Day was a part of and a 5-man team. So, yeah.
There you go. Kofi is the singles option, New Day of the team. Couple tag teams that, one of these has one part and the other one will make sense in a second.
Real quick, would that just be the Woods iteration, or would you be doing?
No, we would do the whole thing.
Okay.
Because obviously, I should know this because it's relevant for what I'm about to do. Because generally tag teams are going to be split in terms of which months. If I see a clear tag team wrestler, I'm just going to put their team forward moving forward. Because I think the tag team editions are fun, right?
Yeah,
so with that in mind, the next one, I believe one of these gentlemen is an August birthday. I'm pretty sure, hopefully anyway. The Dudley Boys, or the Duds as we know them around these parts, as they gear up for their retirement match. Now, I like this one because they're a hot topic. People debate them at every turn, and it feels like now more than ever people think they suck, and I think we could push back on that. I'm just going to say it. The Duds.
we could make
the
it.
Dudleys were good, man.
We could make
the
a
Duds,
fantastic app. Yeah.
I think there's something to that. Okay, one that we talked about tonight. August birthdays, of course. In fear of getting into the debate about when they were born specifically, because I know the New Day lads had a real debate about this once. The Usos are on the ball here for Grin Grappler. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that podcast.
Oh, dude.
That is an unbelievable piece of business. And the final option that I think, again, there's a range of things here. So Bobby Eaton is an August birthday. So we could do Bobby Eaton. We could do the Midnight Express. I think if we're going to do Bobby, we should just do Bobby, though, because he has different teams. And we could do, we could do Regal. We do singles matches. Bobby Eaton would probably be the favorite. But I think there's some fun options there. Kofi, New Day, Usos, Duds, Bobby Eaton, maybe some Midnight Express. Bobby, I go to you first, as always. What do you think?
Those are all good options. It's a big month. The Dudleys are a big topic of discussion as of today, even. So, we could see if that'll keep going for a couple weeks, and that'll be timely. I don't think there is a bad option here. I will say, we got to do this. You got to do Alexa's episode. Alex got to do the Shane episode. Maybe it's time we let Oracle pick one.
Oh,
damn.
The Oracle of
When did you
Wrestling.
start running for office, Bob? Jesus.
Yeah, right. Oracle, what do you think here, bro? There's a lot of good options.
I think the best options are the Dudleys or Bobby.
What a combo. Yeah. Very interesting. Very, very interesting.
I mean, Bobby's like a legend, and like he's like
one of our
those that you
favorites.
kind of check off on your list.
Yeah.
But the Duds are a little bit more unique, and they're more topical, and they're a tag team, as you pointed out. Might be time for a tag team one. And I think we could pull out some interesting. I mean, we'll be. I can't wait to watch the. What was it? Shark Boy and
the Boston Market street fight.
Yeah, there you go,
yes.
So we would do
Yeah.
we would do ECW, WWF, and then TNA, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool, blimey.
If we settle on the Dudleys, because Bubba Ray's a fucking idiot, but like I do kind of like when people are saying they sucked, I'm like, well, hold on. So I think we could have some fun with that of kind of, Frankenstein together the first two acts, and then the last act, one of the really good Bully Ray matches, and then we could find something Devon did kind of aside from.
That may be challenging.
The Slammiversary 2012 match that him and Garrett Bischoff tagged together, Devon like has the place at a fever pitch going nuts for everything.
That is
does.
fun.
Yeah.
We can't do that on the Grappler, bro. We can't. Isn't that against Big Rob and fucking Little Rob?
I don't even remember who it's against. That's a no. I think we could. There's a lot of fun we could find with the Dudleys. Man, we could do some deep diving too to just make sure we don't do like the Heat Wave '98.
That's the thing.
Like
Yeah. It feels like we should. If we're gonna do the Duds, it feels like it should be B-sides.
Yeah.
Because like doing the TLC matches is like fucking,
Oh, we're not doing the. No, we're not doing the.
Yeah.
We're not doing the TLC matches.
The only one we might do is the one they do at the Manhattan Center in TNA with the Wolves and the Hardys.
Yeah, I was thinking we might want to do that one as actually like the last match.
That should probably be, because that should have been the end of the story. They shouldn't be wrestling in 3 months or whatever. They should have clearly stopped them.
Could do Team Bischoff versus Team Austin from Survivor Series 03.
That's a good match.
Have we already done that?
The Dudleys are on Team Austin.
Have done that. Who did we do that for?
Oh, wait. I think did we do that? We might have.
I don't know.
I'm going to check real quick.
We did that match.
Okay.
Who did we do it for, though?
Well, I'll find something else then, baby. What did I plug this on? There's something I was talking about this recently on this show. It's the Dudleys and Rhino against America's Most Wanted and
Oh yeah.
Jeff
Was
Jarrett.
it 05?
Genesis
Was it on the
05?
05?
Yeah.
Alex, the invasion tag.
Yes, that's how we can finally get the inaugural brawl on here. Is doing the
Yeah. When did we talk about the Survivor Series match? Was it on Booker's one? It can't have been Booker's. They killed him real quick.
No, what we did was a couple weeks before that, it was Booker, the Dudleys, and Shane against Jericho, Christian, and La Resistance in a tables match.
Yes.
No, for Shane McMahon.
That's what we did.
So when did Oracle and I talk about this match? What the fuck?
I feel like I remember talking about this match with Joe.
It's definitely come up at some point on here.
I feel like we watched it and did a show on it.
We're so cooked, bro.
Oh yeah, the Duds versus Evolution match, the other one they post because it doesn't have Vinny on it.
Mm-hmm.
That promo they cut before where they're like, "This is Philly," is fucking awesome. Oh, we got to do the Duds, Alex. We got to do it, right? Throw them up, brother. Let's do it. When no one in the world, dude, when no one in the world wants to talk about the Duds in a positive light, it is our time to step forward. Bust it open, bring it on. Let's fucking do it. I'm gonna do a promotional spot on there.
Steps out, dude. We need to buy like a cameo from Devon. Hey, Grin Grappler. This is Devon Dudley.
Okay, Riley has reminded me why I saw this specifically as a review. I reviewed it on a review on one of the review shows. That's what it was. Okay, and then I talked to Oracle about it. That's what it was. Sorry, Alex. I apologize.
No, now we'll do the inaugural brawl instead of that. We'll save some Survivor Series 03 for a rainy day. But yeah, there's a litany of just fucking hot Dudley Boy matches from the WWF we can cycle through, and ECW also. I have to work more on some B-sides because like the Heatwave 98 match is overplayed and their matches with Spike and Balls are kind of overplayed. So we'll figure something out. It'll be good.
My God. The Duds. That's up next, folks. Get your straight out of Dudleyville Blu-rays ready.
Holy shit, they did get a Blu-ray set. That's right.
Oh, yeah, bro. I got it recently. Very cheap. It's very good. Good documentary. They used to put effort into those things, you know. Okay. Tremendous stuff. All right, folks. Let's do some plugs here. Let's head on out. The Oracle of Wrestling. Anything you'd like to promote, mate?
Tomorrow night.
Yes, true.
Grindication live after Dynamite. Probably about 10:15, 10:20 Eastern. I would imagine so. We will have our Grindication for July. The poll will be posted tomorrow morning-ish, I think, early afternoonish. The votes will be made, and of course, we'll tune in at about 10:15, 10:20 Eastern tomorrow evening for that. Next Thursday, the 31st of July, will be the final School of Wrestling for Classic Lucha Libre, where we will have some miscellaneous talk, include a minis match, a Cybernetico. The third match I haven't. I think we might do a lightning match for the third match, like which like their 10-minute sprints or whatever. So those that'll be about 9 p.m. Eastern time on July 31st, next Thursday. And then a little over a week and a half from now, we will have the SummerSlam Grin-alongs, which I will definitely be there for the Saturday edition. Still up in the air on Sunday, maybe not, but I will definitely be there for night one of SummerSlam, which will be, I believe it's airing. The main show starts at 6 p.m. Eastern, right? SummerSlam does.
I'm sure.
Yeah, isn't usually 7.
I think they're moving it to 6.
Okay, works for me.
I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they are.
Nice.
Okay. Tremendous. Bobby, anything you want to plug, mate?
Yes, actually. Late Night Grin. I don't know what number we're on because I haven't been on in a while, but I'm back this week, Friday night. Joe, Novi, Caden, Brainbuster. We're doing professional wrestling conversational content like we used to. I'm also there next week, where we're making lists of times that our fandom was done. And my list is already about 12 moments deep. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Alex, I don't think you've heard about this, but next week's show is August 1st, right? So we're doing hashtag August 1 morning. And we kind of listed the most disappointing moments in our wrestling fandom. So very excited about that. Very, very excited. I thought that would be a good fit for Bob. Yeah. Alex, tell the people about what's happening over on the Contrarians front, mate.
We're thecontrarians.com. We just had our episode on Armageddon drop today. We're currently entrenched in our summer project, which is recounting some of the big MTV Movie Award winners from back in the day. We're also doing...
Sorry,
you're good. We're also doing like a side project now that was Julio's brainchild, just kind of in the face of kind of everything that's going on domestically here in the United States. Way less facetiously, but we're talking about famous movies that tackle the topic of immigration in the United States and immigrants in the United States, and just kind of, Julio said it, besides voting and protesting, he felt like he wanted to do something else, just to kind of get like a voice out there, because he's a citizen of the United States now, but he came here from Peru, and so that's what we're doing, tackling movies about immigration whilst talking about really fucking ranging levels of quality on blockbusters that the MTV Movie Awards celebrated. So a whole lot going on. We are thecontrarians.com, @Contrarian Prime across social media. Check us out.
Beautiful. Folks, much happening around these parts. As mentioned, Grindication, I think I have a WrestlePure spot tomorrow, I believe. And also, we can now announce this will be premiering on Thursday evening. It is ready to go, but that would be the best slot for all involved. The big one.
Yeah.
First ever. Infinite possibilities. Hell of a time. Some awesome visuals. Some ridiculous scenarios. We go all over the map, trust me.
Man.
When I rewatched that, I forgot
What
all
if the
places we
Oracle
went.
of Wrestling had been on that show?
God, it would have gone 3 hours. Yes, you
Hey,
mentioned this on
watch
Twitter.
yourself.
Brother.
The Oracle of Wrestling, who unfortunately he claimed his camera had broke and then announced that he simply
This is what happened. I thought that was broken, and I didn't know I could just do that,
Yeah, on and off button.
That's perfect for the Hulk Hogan episode, though. Dude, my camera's not working, brother. Who set me up on this, man?
To be fair, we went an hour, so it probably was for the best in hindsight. 5-man booth was probably ambitious.
And I spent a whole hour, trying to act like I was a fucking computer engineer.
Oracle has been 95 Kawasaki Stadium. I think Hulk Hogan wrestles Hayabusa. That's where Oracle would have taken it.
Maybe we have to do a sequel in that case. So that'll be Thursday. As Bobby mentioned, we've got the Grin on Friday. We're going to be doing a little squad selection action, which should be fun, and much other things that will emerge throughout the week, no doubt. Folks, we hope you've enjoyed this. As Bobby has mentioned, please like the video. I don't know if we did it a third time, so if you were on one of those second ones, Bob, right, it's imperative you follow up now, right?
Yeah, you're going to go and smash that like button one more time.
Bob's like, yep, you're fucking right, Joe. That would be a big mistake. All right.
To steal Bob's bit on the way out here now, ain't no stopping you from smashing that like button.
Oh, very good. Very, very good. Excellent note close. All right, folks, have a great night. Keep grinning. All hail and enjoy this outro. Goodbye.